We had a fantastic weekend on the gridiron, but this is the episode that you guys know I look forward to more than any other during the season. Welcome to our 2025 NHL preview here on the Wise Guys Sports Show, episode 123. Mike, how does it feel to know that you're pretty much going to get most of the first half of the show off?
Well, I got to tell you, it's odd. Usually, I have the people in my life telling me to shut the fuck up, and usually have nothing to shut me up with. You, sir, have an entire 2 segments to keep my mouth shut. It is like my wife's dream.
Insubordinate and churlish.
It's that too. It's that. Of course, next week it'll be me running my mouth the entire time.
I don't know. After some of the stuff that we've had going on in the last couple of days, there's going to be some lively conversation if it's anything like what happened in the past week since we came to you guys. We'll talk about that later.
Exactly. But as Jim mentioned, today is what I like to call the JC Blue Note special. For those of you who don't know why it's JC Blue Note, my man here is the biggest hockey dude I know. He is a St. Louis Blues psychotic, kind of like I am with these guys. And of course, he's one of the few people that actually still claim the Buffalo Sabres. I don't know if there are anybody in Buffalo who even claims the Buffalo Sabres.
It is here. It is real, and it is spectacular.
It really is. He showed me last week before the episode, the New Jersey. And I got to tell you, I am not a hockey guy. I rooted for hockey one season, as I've said before on the show. And that was 1994 when the team I rooted for won the Stanley Cup. And I was like, you know what? I'm good. It's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous.
The colors just look so much better. And I told you, this is the part down here that I really like, because NHL teams in recent years have started dovetailing the back M. And now some teams are putting things on the inside of the collar. So the Sabres have the kind of like a symbol of the city of Buffalo, which is a star with some lightning bolts on the side. The Blues have the St. Louis flag on the inside, but now they have their new scripting St. Louis Blues underneath the bottom. So a lot of teams are now starting to do that. It's a very nice touch, which actually, for when you want to put them on display like this, it really is a very, very nice accent piece, even though when you're going to be wearing it, you'll never see it.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, that's kind of like some of the things the NFL has done too. My Denzel Ward jersey actually has Cleveland in the back.
Yes. On the inside of the collars, yes.
Yep. And I got to tell you, when you told me you got those special hangers, I was thinking about it, and that may be something I'll invest in, because when we went through, like I told you, we were condensing a few weeks ago. some of the crap we bought. I forgot. You ready for this? I have the official Puma New York Jets Keyshawn Johnson jersey from 1999. I have the Reebok Chad Pennington road jersey, the white.
One of the videos I fell asleep to last night was it was put up by NFL Films on their original YouTube channel. Now it's an older video, but it was like the top 10 revenge games of all time, and one of them was the Pennington um when he was with the Dolphins getting revenge on the Jets for forcing him out in favor of Favre.
Do you know I was literally 2 minutes from buying the all blue Chad Pennington Dolphins jersey? Because unfortunately with the NFL, I have grown less, I've gone more and more disenfranchised with it as the years have gone on, whether it's what the Jets did to not only Pennington, but then Nick Mangold, what they did to Rex and Sanchez, what the Browns have done in the last few years, selling their soul for dog shit. I've become disenfranchised. So I've been following players. As we talked about last week, if I wasn't such a goddamn slob, I would have the white Baker Mayfield creamsicle jersey. So I've taken to following players as opposed to teams. Now, taking that aside, there are some jerseys that if they come in fat man size, I'm going to have a deep conversation with myself.
I know this one just arrived, and I'm finally going to replace my Islanders jersey because the one that I have that I would hang, it was their third from a couple of years ago, but it was one of the DH Gate drop ship ones that's, even though it's personalized, that's more of a collection piece than anything because of the stitching on it and how much tighter it fits because it's an authentic from there. It's not really one that I'm going to be able to wear out, namely with the fight strap, the stitching on the back, it's a little bit more constricting. So I figure if I get one of the more traditional home jerseys, that one I can wear out a little bit more. I'm really, I don't want to say I'm on the fence, but I know I'm going to get one. It's just all a matter of when is I'm finally going to pull the trigger and get one of the new black Utah Mammoth jerseys. And we're going to talk about them here during tonight's show. But yeah, I've got a couple in the pipe here. My biggest wish is that the LA Kings would actually go to an alternate jersey and bring back the black and purple from the 90s as opposed to the purple and gold from the 60s and 70s.
Ooh, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. I think personally, now you still have the Fisherman jersey, right?
Yes. And
Okay.
it's the original starter jersey from 1996. That jersey, if I were to sell that thing right now, the only thing that's not original on there is that I actually had the 25th anniversary patch sewn onto it. And if I were to sell that jersey, because of the fact that it's one of the originals, since they brought the newer one back, but they brought it in the navy and the burnt orange that they wore 10 years ago, as opposed to going back to the royal and navy. But this is the original aqua, orange, white, and navy style from the mid 90s. And that jersey would fetch a pretty penny, but I will never part with that jersey.
No, and there's certain other ones I want to get my hands on, as much as we have bemoaned it that City Connect, the Mets jersey, is growing on me. I would love the new version of the black jersey because I have the old version of the black jersey. We were just talking about it because the Mets had their alumni. I don't know if you saw, the Mets had an alumni game where they had a team of people who only played at Shea Stadium against people who only played at Citi Field. So like Bartolo was there, hysterical. But some of the names, but that was the Mike Piazza era into the Reyes and Wright era. That one I have the blue home and the pinstripe. But yeah, I mean, you're like Mr. Jersey. I've never seen someone have so many jerseys in my life.
I'm still thinking one of these days, because I am, even though as much as I was a hater of them because of the town that they play in and who else inhabits that team, I'm still thinking I'm going to get a Blue Jackets jersey at some point. I just don't know if I want it to be the current home or if they take last year's Stadium Series jersey when they played the Red Wings with that oversized cannon on the front, not the current third, which is like the navy and the cream with the cannon roundel, where it makes it look like they were back in the 1960s. I like that. I really like that stadium series, and I'm hoping that they still stay with it.
Yeah, I remember you and I going over that in the thread count last year. That Stadium Series one was really nice. Yeah, I mean, the only hockey jersey I think I would get personally, and this is from my youth, I really did like the Liberty Head Rangers jersey. I mean, I don't know why. It just something it struck me as because the original home jersey, the Messier era, was just white with Rangers across the front. The
Yeah.
road jersey was the dark blue with Rangers across the front. Um, that was the only one that seemed to me that was any kind of original idea. So that would be one I would grab if they had it. But again, finding them in the big dude size is tough, dude. As much as you hate them, I can't find a Buckeye one in my size.
Well, there were a couple of extra I mean, we talked about some jerseys last week, and there were even a few that got announced earlier this week, and we'll take a look at that here. Um, in the first half of the show. But Mike, uh, we're gonna get into it here. It's let me actually
Do it.
let me go kick some pigs here, and let's drop some pucks.
Amen, sir.
It's the three biggest topics in the world of sports from the last week. Get ready for the Wise Guys hat trick.
And since we're going to be starting with the NHL, hail to the champions, the back-to-back champion Florida Panthers.
Well done, sir.
The Florida Panthers will attempt to become the first team since the 1983 New York Islanders to win 3 consecutive Stanley Cups this year. We've seen a bunch of teams win back. We've seen several teams win back to back. We saw Pittsburgh go back to back. We saw Detroit go back to back. Actually, did Detroit win 3 in a row?
You talk. I'll look
at the start of the century. They may have. Most consecutive Stanley. That's
no,
not.
They won back-to-back cups in '97 and '98.
That's what I was thinking. It's because I know that they were going for a three-peat and actually came up short because I think that's when Colorado started their run. Pittsburgh went back-to-back with Crosby. They went back-to-back with Mario and Yager back in 90 and 91. But no team has won 3 or more consecutively since the Islander dynasty between 79 and 83. And it's going to be very tough for the Cats to start that, as Matthew Tkachuk had surgery not long ago, and he's going to be sidelined until September. Until December. As you actually see here, these are in alphabetical order. So DNQ will mean that the team did not qualify for the playoffs. WC will indicate Western Conference. EC will be Eastern Conference, and then you can actually see where everyone basically ended their season. So you'll see all 18 teams that did not qualify for the playoffs and the 16 that did. I'm sorry, the 16 and 16, and where they finished through the year. But Florida's got a legitimate chance to go for 3 in a row here, but you can't somehow, some way. The Carolina Hurricanes always seem to load up, and this year was no different, Mike.
Yeah, they really did. Their free agent acquisitions were huge. I remember you and I talking about them, and I apologize, I can't remember some of the names that we went over when we talked about it. But Carolina is really going for it this year after really a couple of disappointing seasons, Jim. They had really good regular seasons, and didn't get it done in the playoffs. I want to say they lost in the finals, both Eastern Conference Finals, both years to Florida.
Last year they lost in 5 to the Panthers. And remember, we talked about this a couple of years ago when they went out and they grabbed Brooks Orpik on the first day of free agency. That did not turn out. So they actually went and they took a swing at the biggest fish in the pond and the biggest name on the board. And although it pains me for that, they end up landing uh, all-star defenseman Nikolai Ehlers from the Winnipeg Jets and then sign him to a 6-year contract.
That was the okay. Now Winnipeg. All right, so I'm trying to remember. Is it Winnipeg that became the Carolina Hurricanes?
It was Hartford.
Hartford. Okay. Oh, Winnipeg became the Atlanta Thrashers. Then they went back.
Well, the original Jets moved to Phoenix and are now in Utah. So with the lineage of the franchise, even though they classified Utah as an expansion franchise last year, they got the Browns deal. So when they moved, the owner of the Coyotes retained the name just in case they wanted to bring them back. Then they could restart the franchise, and then he abandoned it 6 weeks after the sale was over. So the Arizona Coyotes are dead, officially.
Okay.
But the Atlanta Thrashers were founded in '99 and then moved to Winnipeg, and took over the Jets moniker in 2011.
Okay. I knew there was something in there with Atlanta and Winnipeg. So I'm trying. I'm trying. Now, let me ask you this. With his impact as a defenseman, now you got to remember the defensemen that I grew up with, most of them were big brawlers who would beat the hell out of people. And then came Brian Leach,
Right.
who, I mean, honestly, if we can talk about it, revolutionized the position, became more of a scoring defenseman than anybody we had seen up to that point, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Is he more the Brian Leach mold, or is this dude busting skulls?
Nikolai Ehlers is arguably one of the best scoring defensemen in the NHL over the past 5 years. He is legit, and there's a reason why you don't see the big bruising guys, on defense anymore. You're not going to find a whole bunch of blue liners that are going to be your Darian Hatchers, your 6'3", 220 guys anymore. The number one pick in the draft, Schaefer for the Matthew Schaefer with the New York Islanders is not even 6 feet.
Yeah, I would say he's a high school kid though, wasn't he? Or a
Yeah.
junior kid?
Yeah.
He's gonna grow. I mean, he's gonna hit a growth spurt at some point in time, you would think. Or else, because if I remember correctly, when we were kids growing up, the little guy usually played center, like Gretzky. And he was the one who directed the offense and the scoring, and the Skullbusters were in the back end. Why does it seem to me the forwards are bigger now?
They really just are. Matthew Schaefer is he's 6'2", 186 pounds. So he's got the size. His body just is not filled out with that. But it's also because, he's definitely more of a scoring defenseman. He's a lot like, my personal favorite defenseman in the NHL, Rasmus Dahlin, the captain of the Buffalo Sabres. And I'm going to talk about him here in a few minutes because he had a very, very tumultuous and almost tragic off season. And if you have to root for one player this year, it's got to be Rasmus Dahlin. But you find a lot of the guys, they don't really like. Dahlin can throw his body around. Schaefer may be able to throw his body around a little bit, but you're finding a lot more scoring on the blue line, than in years past. You get guys on the second and you get guys on that second and third pairing that do like to rough up, much like your third and fourth liners up front. But it's just the way that the game has evolved. You actually don't see. You see a lot of the physicality, but you don't see a lot of the gloves being dropped, although I say that. And I can't believe I'm saying this, one of the more, not so much enforcers, but one of the guys who likes to throw mitts right now is for my St. Louis Blues. His name is Nathan Walker. He's from Australia. He's barely 6 feet.
Yeah, but he's Aussie. That's like, 6'4".
Oi, oi, oi.
Oi, oi, oi. I listen. I'm intrigued for the season for a couple of things. First of all, you know me. I like the history stuff. I would love to see them become the first team since the Panthers. That is
Nathan Walker is 5'9", 187.
again Aussie.
5'9".
But think about it. You think of guys who play rugby, they're not the biggest dudes on the planet, and that they
Yeah.
put licking on people like crazy. For instance, I just had the Giants Chiefs game on just in the background while we were getting set up. Remember, in the NFC East, there's a rugby guy on the offensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles and Jordan Mailata, and dude's not that big.
Yeah.
He's the Jason Kelsey mode on offensive line, and he's just insanely strong and very good up there. But going back to what I was saying, I'm a big history guy with sports that I'm not as invested in as I am some other ones. I would love to see the Panthers run this thing back and win a third consecutive cup. We've talked about their coach ad nauseum is the wrong way of putting it, but at length. We have talked about their coach being one of not only the best coaches in the NHL now and ever, but also one of just the best dudes in the NHL now and ever.
There's a reason why Paul Maurice is loved. There's not a whole lot of coaches in the NHL, if you're a casual fan, that you know the name of, not named like a John Tortorella, a Scotty Bowman, a Mike Keenan. And a lot of the times those guys are for the wrong reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Maurice has actually become kind of a household name.
He has. And again, a lot of it is how long it took him to win a cup, how good he left other franchises that went on to bigger and better things when he left.
Yes.
Of his own accord, because he realized he wasn't the guy to get him there. Here's the thing for you. Until this run with the Panthers, I would correlate Paul Maurice and Buck Showalter. He'll get you
That's
rebuilt.
a pretty good way of putting it. Yeah.
He'll get you rebuilt, and he'll get you to the playoffs. But he's not the guy to take you one step over. I mean, you think of two places Buck was. Buck was the manager with the Yankees. They fire Buck Showalter after 95. Joe Torre comes in and goes on that run with the Yankees. He goes from the Yankees to the Arizona Diamondbacks, builds the franchise, gets to the playoffs in their second year in 1999. After a disappointing 2000, he's replaced by Bruce Brenly. They win the World Series in 2001. Texas, same thing. Baltimore, same thing. He got, in his first year with the Mets, he, of course, gets to the playoffs and they fall apart, kind of their MO. But Buck is the kind of guy who can build a franchise. Paul Maurice, to me, it strikes me as the same type of guy. And when that guy wins a championship, it's just, it means more even to the casual fan.
Yeah.
Because we can commiserate, because most of the time a casual hockey fan is a bigger fan of one of the other majors. And we have a guy like a Buck Showalter. Before Andy Reid won his first title, I would put Andy Reid in that category. So Paul Maurice has been my second favorite storyline with this team in the last 2 years. The fact that a name from our youth, one of his children, has won 2 consecutive cups is awesome. It also tells me we're fucking old.
Yeah. It's Matthew Tkachuk, again, going to be out until early December. This could actually kind of open the door for, I could see maybe Ottawa making a further push. Some of the other big transactions we actually saw just in the Eastern Conference. Columbus, after just missing the playoffs, they missed the playoffs by 2 points last year and were the talk of the NHL in the wake of, unfortunately, the Johnny Gaudreau tragedy. But Columbus goes out and signs Ivan Provorov to a 7-year, $59.5 million extension. And to be able to see Provorov come around, especially with Adam Fantilli taking the next step last year, moving into his spot on that top line with the Jackets. I really like to think that Columbus has got something very special going on here. So does Ottawa, for that matter. And one of the more interesting moves that Columbus also made is they made a trade with the Philadelphia Flyers. The name is eluding me. It's going to come back to me here in just a second because I know I did a piece on it a little over a year ago. But they traded a 6th-round pick to the Flyers to acquire goaltender Ivan Fedotov. Now, if that name sounds familiar at all, back in 2022, more specifically in the summer of 2022, Fedotov had been playing in Russia in the KHL, and this was right about within the first year of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And in Russia, you have to serve at least 1 year worth of military service, as a lot of those European countries do,
Mhm.
Israel, Germany, etc. Um, he had been granted, he was supposedly looking for an exemption so this way he could come stateside and start playing with the Flyers. They wouldn't sanction it. He gets arrested and he gets sent off to a camp to serve his time that's isolated away from everything in northern Russia. And now actually finally comes back over, does not put up a very good first year with the Flyers, but the Flyers were absolutely terrible. Finished, I want to say, with the second worst record in all of hockey last year. Um,
Yeah.
and now Columbus goes out and grabs him to back up Alismer's Lincolns. Um, so it's definitely something where could the Jackets be making a gamble? Absolutely. Is this something that they're basically playing with house money? Absolutely, because Fedotov came in relief today in a preseason game against my Blues and stopped 14 of 15 shots. So good that they're actually starting to get him involved is hopefully making him the number 2 when the season starts in 2 weeks.
What the other thing that I'm interested in with this season is, we're talking about teams that could make a push, and we are in agreement that Edmonton has the best player in the league again for like the umpteenth time in NHL history. Uh, Jim, is this cup or bust for them?
It's going to have to be because people forget that this is the final year of Connor McDavid's contract. He is going to
Oh,
get
that's right.
the biggest contract in the history of the NHL, and I'm including when Austin Matthews is up for free agency after next season with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Um, there is no way, shape, or form that Austin Matthews should make more than Connor McDavid will with this next contract. It's going to have to be cup or bust. The problem is the Toronto Maple Leafs and Vegas Golden Knights, two of the most hated franchises in all of sports, let's be honest, basically dropped the bomb on everyone back in July. So other moves, I mean, uh, McDavid's going to get some help because Evan Bouchard signed a 4-year extension with the Oilers in the offseason. One thing that we didn't talk about with the Panthers, Brad Marchand, there was a lot of talk because he was on the 1-year deal after the trade last year, from the Bruins. He signs a 6-year contract to stay with the Panthers, and this will be his last contract. As there were some people that were thinking after he won the Cup, is Brad Marchand going to retire? Because now he's got his 2 cups. What more does he really have to do? He's got his 1,000 points, right off into the sunset, and he decides he's going to stay for 6 more seasons.
I would love to see. Now, can I ask this question here? Because you
Yes.
know more about the stuff than I do. So in the NBA, with the way the salary cap is, staying with the team you're with, you can make more money.
Yes.
We've talked about this with the Cavs recently with Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley and those guys, where if they would have gone into free agency, they could have made a good, obviously it's a huge chunk of money, but you can make a bigger chunk with the team that brought you into the league. Is the NHL set up that way with their CBA, or is this just whoever can afford them?
It kind of is, but it's also a lot of these teams taking advantage of the last year of the current CBA because next year they've capped contracts at a maximum of 7 years. So you might have some guys that were actually signed to 8-year deals, 9-year deals, 10-year deals, whatever. They've actually capped that at a 7-year deal. And unless you're re-signing with your current team, there's also kind of a salary max that you can do with that.
Is the 7-year deal only the Rick DiPietro rule?
That was part of it. I mean, you have to think, even though he's been retired now for more than a decade, some of the other major moves we talked about Toronto, and we're gonna circle back to that trade here in just a moment. But then again, let's talk about it now. The Toronto Maple Leafs and Vegas Golden Knights swap the one player that everyone thought was going to move. So Vegas sends Nicholas Roy to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto sends one of their core four, Mitch Marner, to the Vegas Golden Knights, and then Marner immediately signs an 8-year, $96 million contract. If this was next season, it's off that's capped at 7 years. So now you've got Marner paired up with my least favorite player in hockey and Jack Eichel.
Mhm.
But it's also a little bit um bittersweet for me because one of the core players for Vegas, he didn't play really much at all last year. And that would be the former captain of my St. Louis Blues, the captain of our 2019 Stanley Cup champion, Alex Pietrangelo, announced back in late June, just after the Knights had ended their season in the playoffs, he may never play again. He still has 2 years left on his contract. He actually has to go femoral reconstruction surgery because his femur is in such bad condition that he now actually has to have it reconstructed for his life after hockey.
How did he break it?
He didn't break it, but it's in such regression and fragility that he needed to actually have he's going to have his femur essentially reconstructed. He will not play at all next year, and they also said that there is a very good chance he will never step out. He will never step back onto a rink again. But he's not going to officially retire because Vegas will continue to pay him the last 2 years of his contract. Then he will retire. So they will put him on long-term injured reserve for at least this season. For this
That's
entire
crazy. That's crazy. I didn't know they could do that.
I didn't either. And Petrangelo, what a wonderful, wonderful guy off the ice. Um, he does turn into a bit of a rat, in the playoffs when Vegas made their run a couple of years ago when Florida, got the first cup. Um, and Vegas was looking to go back to back. Um, but this is definitely not the way that I wanted Petrangelo to retire, but it's also this is kind of something that hockey players do anymore. Um, some of the other big names that were signed, Brock Besser signed a 7-year extension with the Vancouver Canucks. They really need him for this year. Cody Ceci leaves the Dallas Stars and signs a 4-year deal with the LA Kings to be able to bolster their front line. Um, the other two um, moves that I want to talk about here. Uh, the Blues trade Zach Bolduc, one of their bigger up and coming talents, to the Montreal Canadiens for Logan Mailloux. Now, Bolduc's going to make 863,000 in the final year of his contract this year. Mailloux's going to make 875. And both of these guys are expected to get multi-year contract extensions at some point before the All-Star break this year. It's as a Blues fan, I was sad to see Bolduc go, but I definitely think Mailloux is going to fit them a little bit better. And with Montreal making that surprise run to grab one of the wild card spots last year, I think this is only going to make Montreal even that much better. And the Habs are going to have something cooking here very, very soon in the East.
Now, is it just me, or is when Montreal and Toronto and Edmonton, when these when these big Canadian teams, and again, we're still 35, no, 32 2 years
No,
since?
it'll be this. We're going into year number 33. The last one was Montreal in the summer of '93.
So we're going into year 33 without a Canadian team winning the cup. But is it just me, or is when the Canadian teams are playing really well, is it just more interesting?
It's definitely more interesting. We saw, we saw, um, Ottawa have that great run to get into the playoffs last year. We saw Toronto. Everyone thought he was optimistic, and then Toronto goes out and does what Toronto does and craps the bed. Montreal getting in last year. Winnipeg wins the President's Trophy, struggles mightily against my Blues in the first round, and then takes a dump in the second round. Um, Edmonton making a third consecutive run at or a second consecutive run at a Stanley Cup final. But one of the other big move, and this will be the last big move that I talk about. The Calgary Flames signed goaltender Dustin Wolf to a 7-year, $52.5 million extension. If Calgary had any kind of offense, they would be the team in the province of Alberta that everyone's talking about, even with Connor McDavid playing 2 hours south.
Is it that they haven't developed anyone, or they had bad luck with free agency?
I think it's been a little bit of both because they're still kind of reeling after the Johnny Gaudreau trade a few years ago with Columbus, and they're getting there. Um, they've still got a little ways to go, but at least now they don't need to worry about, you know, they don't need to worry about who's going to be in their net because Dustin Wolf is one of the best goaltenders in the entire NHL. When I look over their roster right now, they've also got some bad contracts. Michael Backlund's a bad contract. Nazem Kadri at 34 years old is a bad contract. They're waiting to come off. Jonathan Huberdeau, which was, remember, the 1-to-1 trade with the Panthers that sent Matthew Tkachuk to Florida. He has not developed as what they hoped. Ryan Lomberg is getting up there in age, now officially hitting 30. So they've got some holes, especially on their front line. I don't think there's really an issue on their blue line, but they've actually got to start getting some of these vets to score a little bit more on their front line. Because the issue, we know, once you actually cross into that defensive zone, the issue's not really there. It's Calgary's problem is going to be putting pucks in the net. Their goals are going to be down, but it's almost going to be what we saw with the NFL, with the team that you and I are going to discuss here later on in the first half of the show, is how inept can the offense be before the defense finally breaks?
That's going to be a week-to-week thing with that team, and honestly, it's probably going to be a game-to-game thing with Calgary. You think of the Flames, and Iginla is the first name that pops into my head. For all the years Jerome was there, is that where PK played too?
No, PK was in Montreal primarily, and then went to Nashville for a few years. The other name that I will equate with Calgary is Marty St. Louis.
That's right. And then he went to Tampa.
Correct.
You see,
and now he's the head coach in Montreal.
Marty St. Louis, the head coach in Montreal. Holy shit! I did not know that. Now, are there, just real quick about that, and then let's get into the Mammoth, because I really want to discuss the new team. Is there a lot of former players that are coaching?
As a matter of fact, I was just looking at that. I was just looking at the list. So of the current NHL head coaches, just some names I'm going to throw down here. Joel, one of the other storylines here, Joel Quenneville, after being suspended indefinitely by the NHL in the wake of the Chicago Blackhawks Kyle Beach scandal, has now reemerged with the Anaheim Ducks taking over there. Marco Sturm, former NHL player Marco Sturm, gets his first NHL professional coaching gig after coaching in Germany for the last few years, taking over in Boston after Jim Montgomery left to go to the St. Louis Blues midway through the year. Rod Brindamore returns now for year number 8 in Carolina. Jared Bednar returns for year number 8 with the Colorado Avalanche. Todd McClellan returns for year number 2 in Detroit. He's pretty much now he's on Paul Maurice watch as well, even though Detroit's not really going to
Really?
go anywhere. He's kind of the guy that has all these wins and all these accomplishments and never got over the hump yet. But Rod
Yeah.
Brind'Amour is in that conversation too, and this might be one of his better shots at it. Marty's actually, this is now going into year number 4 for him. Andrew Brunette, former Nashville Predators player, is now going into year 3 behind the bench in Nashville. Sheldon Keefe, after being unceremoniously dumped by Toronto, is now going into year 2 with the Devils. Patrick Waugh returns now for year number 2 with the Islanders.
Did not know
former-
Patrick Waugh was the head coach in on Long Island. That's awesome.
Mike Sullivan, who won 2 cups with the Penguins, is now taking over. He was named back on May 2nd as the new head coach of the New York Rangers. Rick Tocchet takes over behind the bench
That's
in
the name.
Philadelphia.
That's
And,
a name I remember.
Yep. Craig Berube returns for year number 2 in Toronto. Adam Foote, former NHL great Adam Foote, takes over his first head coaching gig with the Vancouver Canucks. And John Cooper is still now the longest tenured head coach in the NHL, going into year number 13 with the Tampa Bay Lightning, which also included two consecutive Stanley Cups and 2 other trips to the finals.
Well, he's probably in the upper echelon with Paul Maurice then, if he's got multiple cups, multiple trips to the finals. But hearing some of those names, dude. Wow, Rick Tocchet, Adam Foote, come on, dude.
The other name, Lane Lambert, takes over in Seattle. And the funny thing is that Seattle fires their coach at the end of last season and brings in Lane Lambert. And Lambert is coaching with the previous assistants, which includes Jessica Campbell, who became last year the first female NHL assistant coach in league history. That's a very, very weird dichotomy. You know, it's kind of like hiring your coach before your GM. To fire the coach and then retain all the assistants and then bring in a new head coach to work with the previous assistants, that's very, very strange, because you immediately, when I bring up Jessica Campbell, the first thing that's popping into everybody's mind is, when is she going to take over the PWHL team in Seattle next, when they start play later this year,
Would make sense for her to do it. Sorry I'm moving so much. The back is just shot. So let's get to the Mammoth. Because first of all, I've been thinking about them since I sent to the group chat on Instagram the picture the other day where Sid the Sloth was mentioned. We won't go into the rest of that, but we all know. We did the jersey on the thread count. I love the jersey. I love the fact that they went there with that kind of a name, because the Yeti would have just been they would have thought it was named after a cooler, because there's not a lot of people who actually know what the hell a Yeti is anymore. I love the name. I love the fact that Utah has hockey, first of all.
Yes.
I mean, if you've hosted the Winter Olympics, you should have hockey. In my opinion.
What's funny is that we actually lambasted hockey in the desert for the last quarter century, and
if not longer.
Exactly. And yet we said the same thing about hockey in Florida, and now they've got 2 teams in Florida, and each one, and if you think about it, they've actually got they've got 4 of the last 5 Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
It's,
here's the difference. Gary Bettman, is it just me or did he meddle too much in the desert?
Very, very much so. And, we said the same thing when hockey moved to Carolina, when we got hockey in Texas with the Stars. The fact that Houston's name always gets brought up whenever they talk about expansion. Why we didn't have hockey in the Pacific Northwest. Why Seattle didn't have a team for all those years. They said hockey would never work in California, and now you got 3 of them.
Yeah, and yeah, but the Kings have been around for a long time. The Ducks, I'll be honest with you, the Ducks were a novelty thing at first. All due respect to Paul Correa going into the Wayback Machine there. The Ducks were a novelty thing. That was Disney getting into the sports world. Who's the
Vegas we thought was a novelty, and they've done it right. They've been to 2 finals, have a cup already.
Yeah, but I think what the thing is when you put a sport in some place you don't think it's going to work. If the front offices are done correctly, it can work. I mean, for as much as we bellyache with baseball, big and small markets, is it just me, or does Tampa Bay find a way to scrap their way into the pennant conversation every year?
Yeah, except for today when they got eliminated. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and there are the years when they're out, but who thought them playing at Steinbrenner Field was going to bring them to being eliminated on the second last Sunday of the season?
Right.
So, yeah, Tampa does that, and from what I've seen and the things I've read about the teams that we're talking about in the places no one thought they would work, the Florida Panthers obviously have a phenomenal organizational structure, as do the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think Seattle's is doing really well up there, especially with the renovation to that arena that is just beautiful.
Yeah, Climate Pledge is arguably one of the nicest arenas, and the fact that they had to rip the old Key Arena down to the studs to rebuild it.
Exactly. It was phenomenal work done there. But if you look at Atlanta, one of the bigger cities in the country, it supports football, basketball, and baseball right now. So you figure hockey would be a way to get it in there.
And it's failed twice.
And it's failed twice. There's no reason for it, but apparently it's going to go there again.
Yeah, allegedly. I mean, if they do expand and let's say they go to 34, you got to actually think that Atlanta, Kansas City, Houston, you're not going to go back to Phoenix. We have the conversation every time we think about it. Do they finally pull the trigger, put a second team in Toronto? Do you maybe look to Halifax? Because you don't have too many more larger cities. Maybe Saskatoon.
If they put one in
that
Regina, if they put one in Regina, that would be hysterical.
Drinks a lot of hand sanitizer. That's right. You haven't seen Goon, so you don't get the reference.
No, I don't, and I will watch that. I will. But Goon has a place in our hearts because of an episode last year at some point.
But with the Mammoth, I saw a video that owner Ryan Smith put out yesterday or the day before of their new practice facility, and it might be one of the nicest practice facilities, especially because it's also very rare that teams generally do this, that they put their practice facility and they built a public type of metroplex around the practice facility. So a lot of the times teams are very private. Ryan Smith is the best thing that's going to happen to the NHL over the course of the next few years, because we've got the opportunity that the Mammoth could be knocking on the door for as god-awful as the Coyotes have been the last few years. And the fact that we saw some improvement. Now the official renovations to the Delta Center are done. It is now NHL ready. And what we've now seen with the practice facility, he is doing everything right that a lot of these other owners are trying to catch up to, having only owned the franchise for the last 18 months.
Yeah, I mean, a decently successful first season. Just with the Utah, obviously, pulling the card out of what the former Commanders did after their other name was taken away. Yeah, I think he is going to compete, and he's going to compete quickly. And so the Delta Center, that's where the Jazz play, and they're going to share that. That's a huge move. Huge move. So yeah, I'm interested to see what how this year pans out, especially with the Mammoth having their name. It's not just the Utah Hockey Club. So now you see, how they incorporate everything. The
Especially
Mammoth,
how the fans showed out last year with the fact that now they've got a team, even though the team didn't have a name. I'm anxious because I've actually added the Mammoth to one of my favorites on the ESPN app. So I do want to actually see the Mammoth at their home opener just to see what it looks like. Um,
Mhm.
Especially now I also want to see how great the renovations are to the Delta Center because they put a whole new riser system in. So for those of you who don't know, a lot of the team, going from basketball to hockey, a lot of the times what they'll do is they'll remove some seats and then the ice surface is around there. The Delta Center is one of the few arenas out there that uses a riser system. So they've got a series of risers like you would think back in high school in your gym that go all the way back to the wall and then you pull them out as you need to. They drop the floor in the arena 2 feet to be able to improve the sight lines and then lay down a whole new ice surface and then be able to put the basketball surface over the top of that, which also in turn is going to allow them to add upwards of I want to say it was like 250 extra seats by doing that.
that's a good move, especially when you see these arenas are getting smaller for hockey and for like I with the sound it generates, you would think Nomo Romo Fijo was bigger, but
Yeah.
it's what 20,000.
Yeah, it's and what I meant by that is an extra 250 seats down near the glass. What they did is with this renovation, they added more than 2,500 seats to the overall capacity for hockey.
Oh, nice.
It's not actually going to reflect, it's not going to be the same for when the Jazz are there, but for hockey, it's going to add 2,500. It's still going to be the smallest arena in the NHL. It's still a little bit behind Winnipeg, but it's definitely NHL ready.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that they got because we had talked about, are they going to have to build a new one just for the Mammoth, and that would have been a few years away. But I'm glad they got the Delta Center figured
Well,
out.
I think it's
This one
also
won't be
something. Well, I also think it's something that they are trying to maybe look into a new arena because remember, the Delta Center was actually built just prior to the Salt Lake City Olympics, which is, you know, a lot of the times those are built hastily.
No, because
Whether
that's where the Jazz played when we were kids. Was the Delta Center, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're right, it was, but it's like but also remember that's kind of what Turner Field was for the Braves, and it was just never the greatest ballpark, and they actually got it right when they built Truist.
There are a few things I will say that franchise got correct, and you were absolutely right. Uh, that and Turner was a house of horrors. But go on.
So we've talked nearly an hour about the preview. Let's actually get into some storylines and some milestones we got coming up. So we're going to actually look at. Um, we've done some thread counts. We talked about the Blues when they came out. We showed the Mammoth jerseys. We had 3 new jerseys get unveiled this week. Mike has not seen any of these, at least I don't think. And the
Nope.
first one we're going to actually start with, so this will be a little mini thread count. Um, the Edmonton Oilers yesterday launched a new third jersey. What is that?
Being who I am, I like the color scheme. I believe the ginger in McDavid's beard and the orange are going to clash a little bit. Um,
I believe that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's Zach Hyman wearing it. It might either be Hyman or Bouchard
well, either
because
way, the
they s-
beard's
they
going to clash.
said it. They said it's an homage to the oil producing industry in the past up in Alberta. Um, I'm sorry, it looks like a navy and orange version of the New Jersey.
Okay. I was going to say this would be the mock up if your Gators played hockey.
I mean, the blue would have to be a little bit, more royal as opposed to navy here. But yeah, I completely understand that.
Yeah, I mean, I like the color scheme. I think it's it's obviously they didn't change their colors for this one, like some of the other teams do. Um, but yeah, the way it's written is just weird.
Yeah. Um, Secondly, here, this one will fall in line with Michael. We've seen some teams unveil their centennial jerseys because we've got three teams having their 100th anniversary this year: the Blackhawks, the Red Wings, and the New York Rangers, and that is leading us to this.
Outside of the model, I don't like it.
I made the comment online, and there's a lot of people that kind of agree with me. They like the retro look to it, but with going with the brighter blue, and the cream, and the fact that you've got, I want to say, 61-year-old Mark Messier, modeling this. It looks like a sweatshirt that you wore to bed the night before. It
I
looks
remember you saying this.
it looks like sleeping shirt after the walk of shame.
Yes. About all I can say to that is just yes. Like the Jack Nicholson gif.
Another one of the other teams we just mentioned, the Detroit Red Wings also unveiled their 100th anniversary jersey. Um, it's classic, I guess. It's
I don't see any difference between what the one they normally wear.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the cream, instead of the white, and the multitude stripes instead of just the one large block stripe. The logo, it literally, I understand it's the original logo from the past century. Um, you know what it looks like? It looks like somebody tried to edit it in MS Paint and actually just shrunk everything down because the margins were too big.
It looks like the old Soviet uniforms.
It does, which is why I've never enjoyed anything the Red Wings wore because they resembled those. You're right, those old Soviet jerseys that we hated so much.
That and they're from fucking Detroit.
Yeah. Lastly, whereas the Red Wings, we could care less about everything that we've shown so far. We feel they've kind of got something okay, but largely they've got it wrong.
Yeah.
Washington got it right.
They did.
The Screaming Eagle alternate is back.
Yeah, no, I like this one.
I like this a lot.
Would you have a puck in its talon or leave it the way it is?
I'd leave it the way it is, just like you had from the Yager and Peter Bondra, Jim Carrey era back in the late 90s.
You said Yager and Peter Bondra. Good God.
Oh, trust me, I had one of those with the darker blue, the black, and the bronze, and it. You remember, I wore that thing religiously when we were in college together.
Yeah, and I think when I asked you either last week or the week before about the Senators one, I think I confused it with this one.
Yeah, I didn't have it in. This kind of needs. There's a part of me that really feels that in the wake, shortly after Alex Ovechkin retires, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. With the way that teams like to bring back old jerseys and give them kind of a new flair, I could see this maybe becoming a primary in the next few years.
I think I'd prefer that being a primary. I don't like the Capitals jerseys to begin with, but yeah, the Screaming Eagles is definitely one that I like to see. They
because
absolutely get it right.
I mean, I'm not trying to bring it back to the Blues here, but with the way that the Blues, they took their current logo, they kind of tweaked it retro, but they modeled the jersey and modernized it. And that's exactly what the Capitals have done here. They've kind of taken that old logo and they've kind of, even though you can look at it and think it's a retro type design with the striping and everything,
Mhm.
just with the shoulder yokes and everything and the piping that goes with it, it's like they've modernized a more classic version of their red jerseys. Um, and I really, really like this. I mean, I understand that when they made the switch back to the Capital script for their 40th anniversary a few years ago, and then eventually ended up winning a cup in it. But I think this is now the way that the Caps need to go.
I agree, especially if now, if either this year or next, because we know it's coming. If when Ovechkin hangs him up, you got to have something to distract the fans or to keep them coming. And going to a new logo definitely would do something like that.
Yep. I completely agree here with that. So let's actually, before we get out of hockey for uh at least for this week, some of the storylines that we can look at for this year. Alex Ovechkin is undecided if this is going to be his last season, reports have come out saying.
With the year he had last year, breaking Gretzky's record, with not only that, but the show he put on to do it, I can understand why he's wondering if this should be another year, not just the final year. I mean, he proved he can still do it at his age. He proved he can lead the. Did he lead the league in scoring last year?
He did not. But for the tear that he went on after that 6-week injury that he had, um, and we didn't think he was going to get there, and then he goes out and he has one of the most amazing scoring runs we've ever seen for a guy that just turned 40 a month or two ago. This past
Yeah.
off season. Now, actually, he's got 900 in his sights. He's 3 goals away from 900. I think he also needs I want to say that if he does come back, it might only be to maybe target Gordie Howe's record of most goals scored by a player after the age of 40.
Do we know what that number is?
I want to, you know what? He did turn 40 during last season.
Oh, see, it was during the
In the
season. I
States,
remember
yeah.
because they did his
I
birthday.
want to
thing,
say he's less than 25 away from it.
Well, makes sense. Come back, set that record, and be done with it. That's not a
Yep.
bad move.
A few other storylines here. We had some retirements. We had Aaron Dell after 7 years, age 36, retired from the NHL. Marco Scandella turned 35 this offseason, retired after 784 career games in the NHL. Tyson Berry retired after 14 years with the Avalanche at the age of 34. Longtime NHL goaltender Yaroslav Halak retired after 17 seasons. Nick Bonino retired in July after 14 seasons, and one of Ovechkin's former teammates, TJ Oshie, retired in June after 16 seasons, and will forever be remembered as a number one winning a cup with Ovechkin in 2018 with the Capitals, but also the legendary shootout in the Sochi Olympics for Team
Yeah, I
USA.
was say TJ Oshie is a name I remember, not from the NHL, but because I do watch Olympic hockey. Being a child of the 80s, you can't help but watch Olympic hockey. But yeah, TJ Oshie's going to be missed. I got to tell you, we were talking about Farewell to Legends. What the Penguins are doing for you. Who's the goaltender? That's it. I hate it when I get these guys' names mixed up because I was going to say Malkin because he's sitting in front of me. But what he's doing there, I think that's a great move. Because I honestly believe that he's going to do something stupid to somebody.
Oh, absolutely. So the story
And I
is
hope
that
it's Crosby.
even though he retired after last season, Marc-Andre Fleury signed a one-day PTO on a professional tryout with the Penguins, and he will appear in their preseason game on the 27th, this coming Saturday, I can only imagine what he's going to do to Sid and Gino's jerseys when he's in that locker room for the final time. This is also, I think, one of those, sign with them, play the one preseason game, and retire officially as a Penguin.
I think that is too. I mean, that's always some of my favorite stuff when you see guys like in the NBA sign the 1-day contract to retire that with that team, or the NFL does it too.
We'll
But
see it
this
with
one
LeBron probably after this year.
probably. I believe he would sign a 1-day with the Cavaliers to retire a Cav. And then opening night, we'd see the 23 go up to the rafters because they'd fucking do it opening
Oh
night.
yeah,
Got to. I would expect that Gino's going to pull off the prank to end all pranks with this one. Like, write something in fluorescent ink that you can't see, and when they go on the ice together, those two have like kick me or check me on their backs, and people see it with a black light or something.
Fleury is one of probably, if not the greatest pranksters of our generation, but I can only imagine what Gino and Crosby are going to end up trying to do to him, knowing that he's not going to be in the locker room anymore.
This is going to be one of those things. There was an old episode of MASH where Hawkeye was convinced BJ could not get him in a prank war.
Yes.
And
Yes.
BJ just turned up the heat, didn't do anything, and Hawkeye lost his mind and lost because the ultimate prank was not pranking at all. What if Gino does some shit like that? Like, you see Malkin and Crosby are just scared out of their minds. Whose hotel room did he put in the hallway?
I think it was Malkin's. I
think it was too.
I think he did it to Gino. I'd have to go back and watch the clip.
Gino's got to be shaking in his skates right now.
Oh, easily. Because here's also the other thing. While we're talking about Fleury, it's also reported that Evgeny Malkin, Gino, will not be offered a contract after this season, and it's also leading to talks that this might be his final year as well.
Pittsburgh's got to rebuild. And I will say this, and I hate who I'm about to bring up, but the Penguins have got to learn from the Steelers. And you've got to commit to the rebuild. Because we know what Pittsburgh's doing as far as the football team goes. The Penguins don't need to do that. They don't need to consistently bring in over-the-hill drug addicts to play major positions for them. Rebuild the damn thing.
Yeah.
Rebuild it. And
you were a bottom 5 team last year. You're not going anywhere. Everyone else is getting stronger. The Islanders landed the number 1 pick in the draft after sitting in the 10th worst spot and are a lot more poised to advance than you. So you're going to, you're right. For Pittsburgh, they've actually got it. Now, the only thing is that we don't want them to be so bad that, because the last time Pittsburgh had this thing blown up and they were talking about rebuilding it, we were actually talking, are they actually going to end up having to sell and move? Because remember, we were talking about the Kansas City Penguins for a little while.
Yes, we were. And then they drafted Sidney Crosby, and the rest has become what it's become.
Right.
Who else was it their somebody else had mentioned it was their final year that you had said something to me, and I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, a couple of other names here. The Rangers named JT Miller as captain after reacquiring him late last season. And this means only the San Jose Sharks and Boston Bruins have not named a captain. The Sharks, there's a lot of people that are thinking that the young phenom Macklin Celebrini will be the captain, although I think it might be a little too premature. And how Boston has still not put the captaincy on David Pastrnak is beyond me at this point. So you've got to actually, this is now Pasta's team. You've got to put the captaincy on him. There's no question about that. But one captain that we are seeing is going to officially bid farewell, and that is going to be longtime Los Angeles Kings superstar Anze Kopitar. Kopitar has spent the past 20 seasons with the Kings. He won cups in 2012 and 2014. He's been the Kings captain since 2016. 440 career goals, 838 assists for 1,278 points in 1,054 games. He is a 5-time All-Star. He is a 2-time Selke winner as the best defensive forward in 2016 and 2018. And he's a 3-time Lady Byng winner as the best sportsmanship player in the NHL. Last year, Kopitar played 80 games and accumulated only 4 penalty minutes. He took 2 penalties all year.
How?
That's just the way that Anze Kopitar plays. Everyone's
That's
going to remember.
amazing.
Everyone's going to remember Kopitar because of the fact that he still wears that tinted visor after all these years.
That dude? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Every time I see him, I think of LT in the ESPN commercial, though.
Yep. Couple of milestones here, and then we'll move off of hockey. Sidney Crosby, 36 assists away from 1,100 for his career.
Wow.
He also only needs 37 points to pass Mario Lemieux for the most in Pittsburgh history.
That was written in the stars the minute they drafted him.
Kopitar needs 22 points from 1,300 in his career.
He'll get that.
Alex Ovechkin, we've already established, needs 3 goals for 900.
Jesus Christ.
Steven Stamkos, now with the Nashville Predators, needs 10 points to reach 1,200, and he's 18 goals from 600. John Tavares with the Toronto Maple Leafs is 6 goals away from that magical 500 that'll get him into the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Nikita Kucherov is 6 points away from 1,000 with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Holy cow.
Brad Marchand is 20 points away from 1,000 for his career. David Pastrnak is 9 goals from 400.
Jesus.
Jamie Benn, Dallas Stars captain, is 44 points away from 1,000, and he's 1 goal away from 400 for his career.
Hey, when you break it down, obviously the points are assists and goals together. But, I mean, is it something like baseball where you got 500, you got a lot of guys 500 and 500, or is there usually more assists and goals? How does that normally work when it breaks down?
It's typically a lot more assists than goals, but typically once you hit that 500 goal plateau, I want to say there's only like 1 or 2 players that are retired that didn't hit the 500 goal mark and get into the Hall of Fame naturally. You know, we've got 3 of them right now between Sid, Gino, and Ovi that even if they were to retire after this season, they're not going to be eligible until, 2031. So
it's 5 years in hockey too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless they actually do kind of like the Gretzky thing and they immediately wave it and throw it, throw all 3 of those guys in immediately. But typically 1,000 points is very, very close to getting you in automatically as well. It's not nearly as much as 1,000 games, but 1,000 points is almost a shoe-in. A couple of others here real quick. Leon Draisaitl, McDavid's line mate in Edmonton, 1 goal away from 400, but he's also 44 points away from 1,000.
Jesus.
We talked about Joel Quenneville. He is 31 coaching wins away from 1,000. I don't know if he'll actually – Anaheim, they're going to need a little bit of, puck luck this year.
Luck.
I think there's a chance that he can get to the 1,000. I just don't know with as loaded as the West is. And even though I cannot stand him, this is very, very cool. Patrick Kane, the very controversial Patrick Kane over the last few years, is 32 points away from passing Mike Modano for the most points ever by a U.S.-born player, and he is 8 goals away from 500.
That's awesome.
Brett Hull is the NHL's all-time scoring leader for American players, but remember, he was born in Canada, even though he has American citizenship.
I forget that. Because, Canadian people, in my experience, are actually very nice. Brett Hull's a prick.
But he's like MJF. He's my prick. He's my scumbag.
Absolutely. What did Stifler say in American Reunion? I'm your dick. Oh boy. Well, this is going to be an interesting season, and of course, the Wise Guys will bring you NHL content as often as possible, because we have an NHL nut as one half of the show. And I got to tell you, now that I have the YouTube TV, and I see a game is on, if I'm just chilling down here, I will put it on and I will watch. Or if I'm playing the Xbox, I'll see what games are on the radio app I have.
Yeah.
And somebody's on, I'll throw them on.
It's the only reason I still have my ESPN Plus subscription.
Yeah. The only reason I miss it.
We're not going to talk about that.
No, we're not going to talk about it. They're turning into Bruno.
So we're going to pivot from the ice and we're going to go to the other winter sport, where they're allowed to hit each other freely.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike, what a week 3.
Dude, first of all, let's start in Tampa Bay. Okay. So I'm going through today. Bobby's playing, and I'll flip the ESPN open and I'll just look at who did what. And I see that the Bucks have a huge lead on the Jets. And I'm like, the Jets really could use a come from behind win, something like this. They need to get their season started. Aaron Glenn is one of my favorite Jet players of all time, their new head coach. Of course, I don't want them to do it at Baker's expense because Baker's my guy and what have you.
And that lead was 23-6 going into the fourth quarter, mind you.
Exactly. So then I get a text from my good friend Melanie, who's still lives in Ohio, and she goes, "Holy Jets!" And I'm like, "What happened?" I flip. Oh, we're going to Bobby and I were going to Publix. I flip open ESPN. I see it's 27-26 Jets with a minute and change left. And here was my first thought: fucking Baker. Let's put this in perspective real quick, and then we can jump to his former team, if you would like. They're 3-0. He has 3 final fourth quarter drives to win games.
That was the underlying theme of this week, is either we had basically final drive, either stops or walk-offs, or there were blowouts galore.
Well, Thursday night started nice with the way the Miami Dolphins just didn't show the fuck up.
I mean, it was a 21-all game going into the fourth.
Yeah, and then they decided to start driving back to Miami.
So to run down the scores as we typically do, on Thursday night, Buffalo is now 3-0. The Dolphins are 0-3. Josh Allen, 22 of 28 for 213 yards, 3 touchdowns. James Cook, 19 carries, 108 yards as a touchdown, as the Bills win 31-21. Some of the 1 o'clock games that occurred today, we had the Philadelphia Eagles block what would have been a go-ahead, which essentially a clincher of a field goal by the Los Angeles Rams in Philadelphia, and then I believe they returned it, and the Eagles are now 3-0, handing the Rams their first loss in a 33-26 win. Jalen Hurts, 21 of 32, 226 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kyrie Williams for the Rams, 20 carries, 94 yards. Puka Nacua, 11 catches, 112 yards.
Dude, he catches everything. And if I can say, we have a catch of the year nomination in the first game we talked about in the Jets Bucks game, as former Ohio State standout Emeka Ibuka pulled one out of nowhere.
Let's talk about that one here very quickly. Baker Mayfield, 19 of 29, 233 yards and a touchdown. Ibuka, 6 catches, 85 yards, and that miraculous grab as the Buccaneers survived 21 fourth quarter points by the Jets. And Baker leads them on a final drive victory, essentially a walk-off type victory, for a 29-27 victory. The Buccaneers are 3-0. The Jets are 0-3.
And two of those losses for the Jets are very hard luck. With what happened, of course, with the opening week against Pittsburgh, they get their doors blown off last week against Buffalo, and then this week they brought it. They absolutely brought it to the Baker Mayfield led Bucks. And I got to tell you, The uniforms in that game reminded me of watching the Jets and Bucks in the 80s.
It was Tecmo Super Bowl-esque. Yeah.
It really was. Good call, by the way.
We have some of the other blowouts that we had. Carolina gets their first win of the year, 30-0, the first shutout of the year over the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Penix, 18 of 36 for 172 yards, 2 interceptions, and is benched.
Yes, and they did announce after the game that Penix is the starter, even though they brought Kirk Cousins into play today. I will say this. He's going to have growing pains. Pump the brakes. I think what we need to be more concerned about in this game is the fact that nobody else did shit.
Chuba Hubbard, 17 carries, 73 yards for Carolina. Drake London, 5 catches, 55 yards to lead Atlanta. The Panthers are 1-2. The Falcons are 1-2 in that abysmal NFC South.
Yeah, it's bad. Who the fuck do the Colts think they are?
Well, I want to touch on that one, but I there's other games that were even bigger blowouts that I actually want to rip through here real quick. Seattle takes a 38-6 lead into the halftime locker room at home against New Orleans and walk away with a 44-13 win. Sam Darnold, 14 of 18, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 5 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. Alvin Kamara for the Saints, the lone bright spot, 18 carries, 42 yards. The Seahawks are 2-1. The Saints are 0-3.
Yeah, it's going to be a long year in New Orleans.
Chicago
needs to get out of there.
Chicago picks up their first win of the year, 31-14 over Dallas, who is now 1-2. So and for the Bears, Caleb Williams, 19 of 28, 298 yards, 4 tutties. And Luther Burden for the Bears goes off, 3 catches, 101 yards, and his first NFL touchdown.
Did anyone play defense on him? Good God.
Obviously not. I mean, you got it. I'd love to look up what his yards after catch were. After he was ruled out earlier in the day, Brock Purdy sits. Mac Jones comes in and leads a late rally for the San Francisco 49ers, who are now 3-0, handing Arizona their first loss with a 16-15 win. Jones, 27 of 41 for 284 yards and a touchdown. Christian McCaffrey, 17 carries, 52 yards. Ricky Pearsall, 8 catches, 117 yards.
And San Francisco lost Nick Bosa.
Yes.
To a knee injury early in that game.
The Los Angeles Superchargers are 3-0 and atop the AFC West. Justin Herbert goes 28 of 47 for 300 yards and a touchdown. J.K. Dobbins for the Broncos, 11 carries, 83 yards and a touchdown. Cortland Sutton, 6 catches, 118 yards as a touchdown. But the Chargers escape with a late score and come away with a 23-20 win over the Denver Broncos.
You figured Denver's defense was going to have a few good swings at Herbert today. From what I read, they really didn't get any pressure on him, which is why I keep saying San Diego, which is why LA end up winning that game.
The Jacksonville Jaguars send the Houston Texans to 0-3. Trevor Lawrence, 20 of 40 for 222 yards and an interception. Travis Etienne, 16 carries, 56 yards and a touchdown. Nico Collins for Houston, 8 catches, 104 yards and a touchdown. But it's Jacksonville coming away with a 17-10 win. Again, Michael, I said it. I think it bears repeating. The Houston Texans are 0-3.
Shocking to me. But there are 2 things that are true in this. Number one, their offense has regressed terribly. And number 2, CJ is feeling the effects of it. Because Nico Collins has only been the only receiver that's really done anything in the last 2 years for them. Their offensive line has serious issues. They can't run the ball, even though they have Nick Chubb in the backfield. It's very disturbing to me. Their defense is still playing well, but it's very disturbing to me that a team that was so young and so talented has let this offense become what it is. And I don't know if it's the coach, I don't know if it's the scheme, but this is not good. CJ Stroud had a rookie year to end all rookie years, and now he's been relegated to trying to get the ball to guys who can't get open and in front of a line, behind a line that's going to turn him into Joe Burrow very quickly.
Yeah. And we'll swing back around on that one here in just a moment. But the Washington Commanders go out and absolutely blow the doors off of the Las Vegas Raiders today, 41-24. Geno Smith for the Raiders, 19 of 29, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns. And the Commander, and this was a game that I don't believe that Jaden Daniels played in. Yeah,
No,
Marcus Mariota got the start today.
Yeah, Mariota got the start today. He was nursing the injury. That's another team that's got a young quarterback that gets hit way too damn much.
Speaking of young quarterbacks, although it could be just like what you had with CJ Stroud, let's actually head out to Foxborough. The young phenom Drake May, 28 of 37, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns. James Warren, 18 carries, 47 yards, but left the field on a stretcher. And Hunter Henry for New England, 8 catches, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he ends up catching both of Drake May's touchdowns, but the Steelers come away with a 21-14 win.
They can't play well at home and win 2 tough games on the road. I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh.
Exactly. Now the two that Mike did allude to, no Joe Burrow, no shot in hell. The Minnesota Vikings hang 48 on the Cincinnati Bengals today. Carson Wentz goes 14 of 20 for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Jordan Mason for Minnesota, 16 carries, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson, 5 catches, 75 yards. He was about the only major player for Minnesota that did not reach the end zone today.
Yeah, considering they had a defensive player for the first time, I think, in NFL history return an interception and a punt or in a fumble for a touchdown. There was a defensive back last name Rogers.
Yes.
I read about it quickly. Just breaking news, speaking of the Arizona Cardinals, James Conner is done for the year, knee injury. He was also carted off earlier today.
Yep. And lastly, the Danny Dimes saga just keeps rolling. Daniel Jones goes 18 of 25 for only 228 yards, 1 touchdown. Jonathan Taylor, 17 carries, 102 yards, 3 touchdowns. Michael Pittman Jr., 6 catches, 73 yards, 1 touchdown. Granted, it was arguably the worst team in football, the Tennessee Titans, but the Indianapolis Colts hang 41 on the Titans on the road in a 41-20 win. The Indianapolis Colts, Michael, again, are 3-0. The Indianapolis Colts, as it stands right now, if you're not named the Los Angeles Chargers, are the best team in the AFC. Maybe outside of Buffalo as well. They are certainly a top 3 in the AFC right now.
I'm going to say this. There are 2 franchises that, with the way guys they gave up on are playing, are getting huge slap in the face indictments to the way they're run. Humongous slap in the face indictments to the way they're run. One of them, obviously, we're going to talk about them next, where the hell did this come from? But the other one is the New York Giants. By the way, 6-6. It looks like it's going to go into a half 6-6 between these 2 teams. Kansas City kicked 2 field goals. Harrison Butker also missed 1, and a touchdown run by our favorite former Arizona State running back Cam Scatterbo, and a missed extra point.
The bowling ball.
Dude, Daboll was doing a press conference. He's in the back screaming. Cried laughing.
Every time I watch the Giants, it's going to be like, I wish it was 10 years ago that we can actually hear Chris Berman doing, bowling ball sound effects like he used to do from Mike Allstott 20 years ago.
Yes, that would have been great. Also, the only reason to watch the Giants is to pray to God that Jameis gets on the field.
Lastly, we saved the best for last, for at least for us. The most improbable game, the game that was supposed to be a whitewashing,
Or a white cheddar washing.
and which is funny is considering the Cleveland Browns were wearing all brown jerseys, so we thought that they were going to be a skid mark on their own field. The Cleveland
It
Browns do
level up
nothing.
for that one.
The Cleveland Browns do absolutely nothing for the first 3 quarters and 3.5
minutes.
minutes of the fourth quarter, and then rattle off 13 consecutive points and stun the NFL's best team, the Green Bay Packers, 13-10 at Huntington Bank Field.
So when you said skid mark, I of course think of what Pants said that you said to me off the air, which was hysterical. But I have not had a chance to watch a highlight package. Wife's got bronchitis, dealing with the kid, what have you. But I will say this. Hats off to the Browns defensive and special team units today. To hold that team to 10 points is nothing short of miraculous with Jordan Love under center. And to be competent enough on offense not to give the game away against a defense like the Packers, that was as good a game as we've seen the Browns play in the last 2 years. The big block at the end when who's the kicker for Green Bay again? I can't remember his name.
Where'd it go? Brandon McManus.
McManus is so automatic in those kicks to block that kick, and then for your boy Andy to kick a 55-yarder when he couldn't hit from 5 feet away in week 1.
Yeah, we're going to talk about him in just a second. Yeah.
A phenomenal end to a great day in Cleveland. Again, hats off to that Browns team today. Really not a whole lot else to say other than they showed me something today. They really did. That defense is so good, Jim.
Jordan Love, 18 of 25 for 183 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 very costly interception that we'll talk about here in a second. For the Browns, they win this game in spite of Joe Flacco, and the leash is getting tighter, Michael. 21 of 36 for 142 yards, 1 interception, but it came right at the end of the first half when he actually tried to go for broke, threw the ball down to the end zone, from over 40 yards away. It was basically an arm punt at that point. And Green Bay just ends up taking a knee to run out the first half. But Quinshon Judkins, your boy from Ohio State, very solid game. 18 carries, 94 yards, and his first NFL touchdown. And so this game is 10-0 Green Bay with about 9 minutes to go. The Browns put together a significant scoring drive, considering it also with Judkins rattling off a 38-yard run to put them in range. It's a 2-score game. Andre Schmidt, who couldn't hit anything the last time he was in Cleveland Browns Stadium, where he only hit 1 field goal and then basically would have missed an extra point and the game and what would have been the game-winning field goal, and the Browns lose. He has actually not missed a single kick the last 2 weeks, although they got run off the field last week in Baltimore, but he was also very sharp when they actually got scoring opportunities today. Green Bay's got a shot at David. They're back deep in their own territory. Love tries to throw. He tries to force a pass. We still don't know who he was aiming at. And
Seriously.
And Greg Newsome intercepts it and runs it all the way back to the Green Bay 4-yard line. Judkins scores 2 plays later, and we got a 10-10 game. We're under 4 minutes to go. Green Bay is down the field. It is inside the 2-minute warning. They set up for a field goal, which basically at that point, the Browns are out of timeouts. Green Bay's got one left themselves. Shelby Harris, the one of the Browns' unsung heroes on that defensive line, blocks his sixth either extra point or field goal of his career. It is recovered then by Greg Newsome. I'm sorry, it was Grant Delpit who came up with the interception on the previous drive.
And
then
Newsome,
the Browns go 4 plays, and Schmidt hits a 55-yarder right down Euclid Avenue, sending the remaining Browns fans who had already started filing out when Green Bay was going in for their score, because theirs was almost a chip shot. McManus, it was 40 yards, and for Harris to get his big paw on that, Carson Schlesinger had his first NFL sack today. Aaron Huntington, the undrafted rookie star out from the preseason, gets his first sack today. Schmidt was automatic. Judkins goes for nearly 100 yards. This was rookie day for the Cleveland Browns. And for them to beat Green Bay, they've got something. Now, granted, they're going into Detroit next year, and they're likely going to get snapped right back down to earth very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
This is still a team that should have been 2-1 after the opening week, and they've got something cooking here. It leads me to the elephant in the room that we have to talk about. Joe Flacco looks every bit of 40 years old, Michael.
Yeah, he does.
Getting shorter. By the time the London game gets here in 2 weeks, I think they've got to make the switch to Dylan Gabriel. I really do.
I think the sheer fact that no one's pointed out the fact that the Cleveland Browns don't run the fucking football as much as they absolutely should with rookie running backs and a 90-year-old quarterback needs to be discussed.
Well, that was also something that they did bring up this week, because they were hesitant last week because Dylan Sampson, the other rookie that they drafted, is not meant to be a feature back. And Judkins got into last week's game, but he only had 2 days worth of practice after the ruling came down, from the NFL and everything. So he had a full week of practice, and it showed that he was a lot more crisp hitting his holes today than he certainly was last week. And Green Bay's got a damn good. He also threw a block on a pass protection for Micah Parsons, to where Parsons actually eyeballed him afterwards and says, "Yeah, I'm coming for you." He played Parsons out.
So now I'm going to play a little Buckeye honk real quick, because I'm going to say this to you. There are 5 or 6 draft guys between Fox and ESPN that said their favorite part of the Buckeye running back tape was not the fact that they had breakaway speed, because they're both burners. They're both home run hitters. They both lay the wood in the pass protection game. We've seen Travion Henderson hit dudes, including on the very last play of the national championship game, hit a guy, and it looks like the Matrix. He's flying backwards. Judkins was as much of a thumper once he got to Columbus, because when he was at Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin would hand him the ball and go, "Run, kid, do whatever you want." He didn't have to block. When he got to Columbus, the running backs coach and Ryan Day, and of course, then offensive coordinator Chip Kelly, and now offensive coordinator Brian Hartline, got in his ear and was like, "Listen, you need to pop dudes on pass protect." And they've done that. So hearing Judkins laid out Micah Parsons, not sound like this, Buckeye running backs have been laying out good defensive players from Penn State for fucking years.
Yeah. It's this was a really good Cleveland smash mouth game between what Judkins was able to do, nearly 100 yards. The fact that the Browns sacked Jordan Love 5 times in this game, had their first takeaway of the year with that critical Delpit interception late, and Micah Parsons only accounted for 2 solo tackles all day. If they had any sort of competent offense right now and continuity, especially in the passing game, this is definitely a game that should not have been as close as it was. They absolutely should have won the opener against Cincinnati with the kicks that were missed. And there's a lot to be positive about and a lot to look forward to if you are a Cleveland Browns fan right now.
Not disagreeing with you at all. I'm still not high on Dylan Gabriel. I've never been high on Dylan Gabriel. I understand he's next in line, that you're going to play him before Shador if Flacco falters. But Jim, what I want to see in the next couple weeks is I want to see this team run the football. Be a Cleveland Browns team. You have 3 decent running backs on the roster. Give them all 15 carries. Run the ball 45 fucking times. Who cares?
Yeah.
I understand about having continuity in the passing game. Here's the problem. And I'm going to throw this out there, and I would like you to think about it and answer. There's a reason they got Jerry Jeudy for such dog shit draft picks.
They did not scheme to get him involved at all today. They had one pass, and then they targeted him on the next 3 plays. And I would say, from what I watched, 2 of them were not even his fault. It was the fact that Flacco is 40 years old. And we will love Joe Flacco for what he did for this franchise 2 years ago, as we're getting ready to go to halftime here, a very brief halftime, unless you want to blow through it tonight.
Well, let's just keep going.
Okay. But I think it's the fact that they were expecting Flacco to be a stopgap to get through these first 6 games. Here's the thing now. You should have conceivably been 2-1. The Minnesota game, even though that they ran up the score on Cincinnati, who looks like that they're going to be trash with Joe Burrow now missing the next 3 months. And we'll talk about these injuries here in just a second here that we have up on the screen. After they get through these first 6 games, this murderer's row, there's some games to be had in the back half of the season.
Oh,
and
yeah.
this may not be nearly as bad as we think, because they now look competent. And this is what we were hoping for with this rookie class. They look fun.
They do look fun. This reminds me.
They look fun.
This reminds me of the 18 class. This reminds me of Baker's class. And if you think about it, they were coming off the 1-31. Baker went 7-7 as a starter in his rookie year. And if it's Gabriel, if it's Shador, if it's whoever, if this Browns team can get to say 7-10, yeah, that looks pretty fucking good.
Would we take even 5-12 with this team, with how inexperienced that they are? 5-12 is certainly not ideal, but from the fact that most pundits were predicting this was a 3-win team, and for them to go out and win 5, 6, 7 games, is that actually considered a vast improvement?
I will say a 6-11 team would be a very good building block season, which is what the Browns need. It would take a fan base from going through the paper and through the websites and saying, okay, which college quarterback had the best week this week that we need to start watching, to, hey, we've got something here. And God willing, the real elephant in the room with this team will stay on the fucking sideline. They play him. I'm out again. I'm out.
Yeah, but I will say, if anything, if he tries to force his way back onto the field, it'll be the last time you see him on that field. It's, after this season, because he will be cut next June. So you're not going to have to worry about that anymore. But at that particular point, I think the only way that he gets in is if they've completely thrown in the towel, and they're trying to do it to avoid a lawsuit.
Can Miles just use him as a tackling dummy? Pay him for that.
We would have no argument there.
I'd sell tickets to that.
And again, I showed you just before we went on the air, the all brown uniforms were sweet today. They were. Ragged on them as much as we wanted to. Those were nice.
We ragged on them because they are sponsored by Dude Wipes. We didn't rag on them because of the uniforms. We were okay with the uniforms. The sheer fact they have a full brown uniform, we thought they were going to be absolutely horrible, and it was sponsored by Dude Wipes.
I mean, it's the Color Rush jersey. It's the Baker Color Rush uniform with the brown helmet. That brown, I
like the brown helmet.
It's going to be sacrilegious. I like it more than the orange. I would love to see if they actually. I would love to see how it would show up with some of the white, with the white jerseys, or even the orange pants.
I mean, would they change the logo from the orange helmet to the brown one?
It'd be interesting. I mean, I still think that, they one of these years they're finally going to pull the trigger and put the dog logo on there somewhere or incorporate something.
See, I like the dog logo. That's the one I incorporated in the Big Rican shirt. Real quick, the other game, 9-6, Kansas City at the half. And Kansas City gets the second half kickoff. So let's talk about some of the injuries, Jim. Real quick. Joe Burrow, who I am going to start calling Tim Couch, to be honest with you. But let's think about this.
Could we maybe just call him Glass Joe instead?
Did you see Annie Agar this week? Please tell me you watched it.
I did.
When she starts the Andrew Luck thing, the writing to the mother, oh my God.
Did you see New Heights where Jason took his socks off and showed the explanation of turf toe?
I did. I haven't watched this week's episode yet. Considering they had Fallon on, which is amazing. I will say this. Never mind the Burrow turf toe injury. I am still stuck on that hit that Myles Garrett laid on him in the first week. How, if you are the GM of the Cincinnati Bengals, how do you sleep at night? How? Think about it this way. Ken Anderson, Boomer Esiason, Joe Burrow.
You can also throw John Kitna and Carson Palmer in there.
Well, not even that. But you've been to the Super Bowl 3 times. In your franchise's history, you've been in the Super Bowl 3 times. Each one of those quarterbacks, the first 2 anyway, very few injury issues. Consistent winning for Cincinnati through those guys. Sam Weish was a great head coach. You had the Icky Woods phenomenon with Boomer. And now you've got a guy who's more talented than both of them put together. And you are so out of touch with reality that you can't protect him. I mean, I know the two cities don't like each other, and I understand Kentucky's a mean place where Cincinnati is, and of course, Cleveland is Cleveland. Look at what the Browns have done to Couch, Baker's second year and fourth year. Look at it. This is a team that was built to win. Got their quarterback injured. One couldn't play and never panned out. The other tried to play through it and got himself sent off to purgatory and now is winning games left, right, and center in Tampa Bay. Burrow may have signed that big money contract, but if I'm Joe Burrow, I'm trying to find a way to fuck out.
There's a lot of validity to that statement, Michael.
Because now it's not even about play. It's about how am I going to fucking walk when I'm 50?
Yeah.
Because these fuckers can't protect me.
This is the third significant lower body injury that he's had in the last 4 years.
Well,
and
okay, so he came in as...
And I'm sorry, Mike. We saw Najee Harris leave today with a non-contact injury, and they're starting to fear the worst. We saw it with Odell Beckham in the Super Bowl a few years ago. We saw it with Deshaun Watson last year. These non-contact injuries, and Burrow, thankfully, his was a contact injury, which actually means he will, there's a very good chance he's going to be back by the end of this year. Cincinnati is certainly not going to go to the playoffs right now.
No.
Which, puts a complete damper on their season because they were picked by a lot of people to not only make a wild card, but challenge Baltimore for the top spot in the division. But it's ruining the potential that Burrow has.
It really is. For all the belly aching that people do about Cincinnati, if you look at his trajectory, every place has been people overlooking his worth. Ohio State, granted, that quarterback room was insanity with him and Haskins and Barrett and all those guys. But he goes to LSU. He has a bad year, gets a good offensive coordinator, has a great year, goes number 1 in the draft. His second year takes the Cincinnati Bengals to the Super Bowl and drive wins a Super Bowl for Cincinnati?
As much as we can't stand Matthew
Why
Stafford,
have you,
thank you, because it would have made Cincinnati would have been insufferable for the next 5
more
years.
than they already are?
Yeah. But we also had go
And,
ahead.
but my whole point, if you see what you did, that's that first, and it was his first full season because he hurt the knee his rookie year. Was that against the Browns?
Yes.
It was the second game against the Browns, right? Because he threw the pick six to
Yeah,
Denzel.
it's because also, well, yeah, also remember the first year it was his hand.
Was it?
Yeah,
I thought it was
I
the
want
knee.
to say
I
it was the
apologize.
thumb injury that he took a sack from Miles.
In Cincinnati, that's right. That was the Baker comeback where he went like 16 to 16 to end the game.
Where you
Stupid.
where one of the few times he actually got along with Odell.
Yes, correct. How, if you're the Bengals, are you not taking your first and second round picks for the next couple of years and just getting the biggest, beefiest fucking offensive line you can find? Not for nothing. The joke is fucked up, but someone was very true. America's an obese country. You can't find 5 fat dudes to sit in front of fucking Joe Burrow. If I was 25 years younger, I'd offer.
But we've got Burrow hurt, Khalil Mack. We don't know how long he's going to be out for the Chargers with that elbow injury that he suffered on Monday night last week. Jaden Daniels missed today's game. We talked about Harrison Connor earlier. Sean McVay tears the plantar fasciitis in his foot. It's he's really not going to miss any time. He's still going to be able to be like in a cart or like a scooter or something on the sideline for the Rams. But it's what is it with all of these major injuries early in the year? And a lot of them are, I mean, outside of the Mac injury, they're all lower body.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the CBA, Jim. They're not doing two-a-days anymore. They're not hitting anymore. They're not doing the physical things the guys years ago did. I mean, we've heard how many dudes pop Achilles in the last 5-6 years when the only ones you and I can remember from when we were younger were Marino and Testaverde.
Yeah, exactly.
And the only reason we remember Marino is because it
On a
happened
Monday
in
night
Cleveland.
game. Yeah.
And then Testaverde, of course, I remember because I was a Jet fan back then. That was the first game the year after going 11-5 and coming within an eyelash of going to the Super Bowl. After having to go to Denver, it would have been a Jets Atlanta Super Bowl had they gotten the job done in the AFC Championship game. So it's the only two I remember. Usually that was a basketball injury because of what they do, but yeah, it's got to do with the weights. It's got to do with practices are. You're not having the two-a-days to get back into game shape like you used to years ago. I mean, we're doing these things to protect them. You're not protecting them. You're not protecting them.
I completely understand, and I agree.
And Sean McVay on one of those little scooters where you put your leg up because you got an ankle injury and you push off with your foot is going to be comic fucking gold.
Considering he's not even 40 yet, and he's actually going to be driving around on a scooter that's reserved for like 70-year-olds.
Speaking of McVay, did you watch the New Heights episode with Baker?
Not yet. Not yet.
So Baker they talk about that game with the Rams that really basically saved Baker's career. But they gave him a wristband with 75 plays on it. And he looks at Travis through the camera in the face and he goes, I give Sean the shit about this to this day. He didn't call a single fucking play off that wristband. I'm like, what? I thought Jason was going to pee himself. He was laughing so hard. But this is an offensive genius. He's coached every position on the field on the offensive side of the ball. And now homeboy's going to be in a scooter.
Mimi.
Somebody on that team's got to bedazzle the shit out of that thing one day.
Oh, God.
Yeah, way to take it straight down the field, Patrick. There you go. I think it's time for you, Jim.
This is where halftime would have come into play.
The preview episodes are always long. Next week's going to be the same.
Hey, in case you haven't noticed, judging by the attendance, you haven't.
So the blast isn't gigantic, but it is a lot to get through. We talked about Major League Baseball's final week. Can we not? Can we not?
We're going to have to, unfortunately, but the Indiana Fever win their first playoff series in a decade and then stun Las Vegas in game one to go up 1-0 in that series. No Caitlin Clark, no Sophie Cunningham.
No, and this is unreal. I don't think Vegas knew what hit them in this one. Is it just me, or has Indiana really turned up the defensive pressure since Caitlin's gotten hurt?
They've kind of had to, because Vegas hasn't really been right since New York, since Seattle broke that near record winning streak with that game 2 win.
Yeah, I mean, that was coming back from a winning streak like that, coming off of it and getting it broken. Sometimes it hits you in the gut and you got to get up with it. But speaking of the Las Vegas Aces, a very nice moment today at practice when Asia Wilson was named the WNBA MVP for the record 4th time, and her boyfriend, NBA player Bam Adebayo, showed up at practice randomly with the WNBA MVP trophy for her. Made it a cute little thing. If he would have gotten on one knee, it would have been even cuter, but who am I to speak? I do want to talk about that other series, because I think that series is going to be another one that's knockdown, drag out, is that Phoenix, Minnesota series.
Because
Are
remember,
these
now
5
we're
games?
now that we're in the semifinals, it's best of 5.
Okay, so you got to win 3. Minnesota, Phoenix is going to give Minnesota everything it's got. I don't know if they get it done, though. I think Minnesota is locked into winning a championship, and especially since Phoenix knocked out the Liberty, which was shocking to me. That's massive. I think, dude, could we see in a year after we had the 2 absolute best teams play against each other last year with Minnesota and New York, is it possible we get an Indiana, Minnesota final?
It's entirely possible, but I think Vegas is just still way too loaded, for that. If even one of the, even if Lexi Hull's got another one of Trace Leach's with her, we could be talking a different thing. Aaliyah Boston is not going to be able to carry this through with as much firepower as Vegas has got. It's a great story for them to actually win that series, that opening round series, and then steal game 1 in Vegas earlier
Yeah.
this afternoon. But they're playing with house money. They're very doing what the Browns are doing. At least today, it's all house money. It's also another team that we're going to talk about with one of the other things that's on the bottom of this screen. But I still think it's Minnesota and everybody else right now.
I agree. Even with as good as Vegas has been, I think Minnesota's just out for blood this year. They felt like they should have won it last year. A couple of calls that were controversial in that finals that could have gone their way and got them that. But it'll be interesting to see as the series unfold. Obviously, we'll touch on it again next week. We should have the finals set by next week, I would think. Going from there. Give me 1 second.
The AP Top 25 came out earlier this afternoon. As we roll through it, Ohio State still maintains their hold on number 1. Miami, after beating the snot out of Florida, contrary to what the final score is, gains 7 first-place votes and leapfrogs Penn State and LSU to jump to number 2.
Well, that question will be settled soon. Listen, Penn State has the big game of the week next week. They will have to host Oregon in what will end up being the whiteout game. It is the night game on Peacock next Saturday. Ohio State goes out to Washington. LSU, I know they're into the teeth of the SEC schedule. How about Oklahoma being in the top 10 for the first time in a few years? Indiana goes up 8 spots by beating the absolute tar out of Illinois.
Indiana and drops Illinois 14 spots in the AP poll.
Michigan survived at Nebraska, who, by the way, not this year, but next year, if Raiola stays in school, is going to be so good. So good.
My little homerism here is a little upset that Missouri only jumped 3 spots after beating a very good South Carolina team.
Did
Alabama
Sellers
dropping.
play?
What's that?
Did Sellers play?
He did.
Okay, I was say if he didn't play, that would be why they didn't jump up higher.
Texas Tech jumping up 5 spots. Indiana jumping up to 11th. Alabama losing 3 spots, essentially being basically idle this week. Utah taking the huge tumble. Auburn with their loss, not a huge tumble for them. Losing to Oklahoma, who gets the first place vote. Mike, controversial take here. The game of the century of the week will not be next week. It will be the week after when we get Miami and Florida State. If Miami wins that game as convincingly as they have the other 3 ranked games that they've had this year, running over South Florida, beating the snot out of Florida yesterday, the come from behind late game heroics in that downpour against Notre Dame in the opening week, I think Miami could be conjectively classified as the number 1 team in the country because they'll have actually played a much, much tougher and earnable schedule than Ohio State.
Absolutely. 100%.
There is no reason to me when I look at this that Ohio State should be exactly 130 votes in the AP poll better than Miami. When Ohio State beat a Texas team that was largely overrated at the start of the year, has worked themselves staying in the top 10 and is still trying to find their offense, and then 2 teams that are going to, one out of the SWAC and a middle of the road MAC team, where Miami played a SWAC team because they played Bethune or Florida A&M or something. They do that. That's their charity game of the year. But they have scheduled extremely well here in the first part of the year.
No, they absolutely have. I will say this. Yes, Ohio State had the win against Texas in week 1, which vaulted them into the number 1 spot. Grambling was only on the schedule because Connecticut dropped out and they couldn't find anybody to fill it, and they didn't, other than Grambling, which was great for the Band Geeks, whatever. I disagree with you on one spot. I think OU is going to be the team that gets into the playoff as the group of 4 winner.
Memphis.
Who's it going to be?
Memphis.
Who?
Memphis.
After they beat Arkansas this week?
Yeah.
Well, if OU runs the table with a win against West Virginia at West Virginia on their resume and wins the MAC, unless Memphis wins the American Athletic, they're not getting in.
Memphis
Beating
is
Arkansas
already
or not.
4-0, and they've only given up 64 points on this season.
Against who?
Chattanooga, Georgia State, Troy, and Arkansas.
Okay, so
Georgia
Troy
State's a pretty good ball club.
Georgia State's a pretty good ball club, but again, small school. You get points with me for Troy because Troy was beating the piss out of Clemson. I fucking laughed my ass off yesterday. Thank you, Syracuse.
Although it's
At the
bittersweet because they end up losing their starting quarterback for the year with an Achilles injury.
Yeah, speaking of the Achilles injuries, yeah, that was tough. But so Memphis has that win against Arkansas. I would put that up against that win against West Virginia that OU has. OU walked into the horseshoe and played with them for the first half. I don't see Memphis doing that with a big time top 5 program.
Well, OU's 2-2 on the year, so I mean that actually is already working against them.
Oh yeah, that is. Never mind. I thought the Ohio State game was their first loss. So I know they played West Virginia. I thought they beat West Virginia. That's why. Okay, maybe Memphis is the team. It's definitely not gonna be Boise.
Yeah, but remember, I think Boise's in a power conference now.
Are they in the Pac? Oh, that's next year. They're in the Pac-12.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. You're right. Because they're in the Mountain West right now.
Yep.
Which is one of those fringe conferences as well. You know,
exactly.
They're strong enough where they could be considered outside power, but they're still mid-major because of the dichotomy shift
and the enrollment size too.
Yeah,
it's why it's like there. So yeah, if they beat Florida State handily. Now, is that game in Tallahassee or is that in Coral Gables?
Oh, I was literally just looking at it and I clicked off to pull up the standings. I'm getting it back. That is in Tallahassee.
You walk into Florida State and put a ass beating on them? Yeah, you deserve to be number one. Ohio State opens conference play next week at Washington, a 3:30 game. With that game on November 1st looming. When I think Penn State will be a one-loss team at that point in time. I don't think Penn State beats Oregon on Saturday. So let's look at their compared schedules going into this thing. So Ohio State goes to Washington, home for Minnesota, at Illinois, who's ranked. They're 23 right now. And then they go to Camp Randall, where many people think their next defensive coordinator is coming from, who happens to be their old defensive coordinator. Then you have the big one against Penn State in the shoe. You go to Purdue, home for UCLA, which again is a shit show. Then you have Rutgers and the big one at the end of the year, at the end of November. Give me a second. So I'm going to fill with some more college football. Actually, I'm going to fill with some MLB this week, as Jim has to hop off just for a second. So let's talk about the final week of the Major League Baseball season that's coming up, as the playoff races are tight. Next week, just a quick tease, next week we will have the Wise Guys present the Big Weekend Baseball Show postseason preview. God willing, the fucking Mets will be in it. Make me crazy. So yes, we will come to you next Sunday. Alex will be with us, as all the Big Weekend Baseball shows include our buddy Alex Reese from Chicago. But these playoff races are heating up, and I got to do this. Anger at the Mets or not, a tip of the cap to Terry Francona, a year removed from being out of baseball, has the Cincinnati Reds in a playoff spot. There are 2 spots left in the National League. The 5th and 6th seeds are up for grabs, as the Cubs have already wrapped up the 4. The 2 buys in the National League are going to end up being the Phillies and the Brewers. The Brewers are number 1 overall seed in the National League. Jim, you called at the beginning of the year, the Toronto Blue Jays are the number 1 overall seed in the American League. They've got 2 or 3 spots. All the wild card spots are still open in the American League, if I'm not mistaken.
Here's the thing with the Jays today. They became, with 6 days remaining in the regular season, the Toronto Blue Jays were the first American League team to clinch a playoff spot today.
Yeah, the Yankees are still in it. The Red Sox are still technically in it, but I want to say screw all them, and I want to talk about the thing we spoke about on the All-Star Game show when I told you, do not count out the Cleveland Guardians.
You mean the Cleveland America Guardians, who unfortunately saw their 10-game win streak get snapped today, considering they were up 2-0 in that game in the sixth, and then basically the bullpen imploded, losing 6-2 to Minnesota. And this was a Minnesota team that they swept a day-night doubleheader against yesterday, outscoring them 14-0 and only allowing 8 hits over the course of the day.
I saw some crazy number today. In the last 16 games, the Guardians pitching staff has given up exactly 28 runs.
And most of that is only by their starting pitching has become the best in baseball in the past month. Michael, we're going to get into it here right now. The Cleveland Guardians 2 months ago were 15 and a half games out of first place.
Mm-hmm.
On August 25th,
Mm-hmm.
the Cleveland Guardians had lost 9-0 to the Tampa Bay Rays. The
Mhm.
Guardians were 12 and a half games out of first place and had fallen to third in the American League Central. As of last night's action, the Cleveland Guardians were tied for the third wild card spot and are 1 game back of the Detroit Tigers, who have fallen into the toilet. The Guardians have won, after, not counting today's game, were 10 in a row, and I want to say 14 of their last 15, including a 3-game sweep of the Tigers in Detroit earlier this week, setting up a massive, earth-shattering series. We all thought that the big pennant race was going to come down to the Dodgers and the Giants, or the Yankees, Red Sox, and Jays. It's going to be Cleveland and Detroit. Here's a Detroit team that had the best record in baseball leading into the All-Star break, and they are now legitimately concerned about this thing falling apart and missing the playoffs entirely. It would be, Michael, would this be either the greatest comeback in baseball history by the Guardians or the greatest collapse in baseball history by the Tigers if you had to pick one? And you are not allowed to marsh on this.
Comeback. And only comeback because baseball is such a long season, you go through streaks. And Detroit hadn't had a cold streak for 4 or 5 months. So they're kind of getting all their karma for that. What the Guardians have done, because a team can fall in the tank. If you don't take care of your business, they can fall as far in the tank as you want. You don't take care of your business, it don't matter. This is the greatest comeback if they pull this thing. If they sweep the Tigers this week, first of all, I think you bury the Tigers at that point in time. I don't think they get up off the mat for the final weekend. And now we're talking about, oh, by the way, they have 6 games left.
All at home.
All at home. And say they go 5-1. And they end up at 89 wins. You get Seattle to clinch the West and take their foot off the gas, you get the bye. If you go from 15 and a half down to the bye, look out. We thought they gave up the season. We thought they gave up the season at the trade deadline. Which brings us to the Big Rican stat of the week. James, I didn't know if you knew this, but this is the 32nd year of 3 divisions in Major League Baseball. Of course, we're into the 94 season. We had the central divisions of both the American and National League created. And you and I have gotten into it left, right, and center, whether it's been on the show, in free time off the air, about teams purchasing titles, big market versus small market. So I give you this question off the air earlier, we did not finish it. And the question I asked you, what was the largest market in the Central Division of either league? Chicago. James, can you tell me the two teams in the National American League that have won the most Central Division titles since the division's inception in 1994?
That would be the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox.
That would be the Cleveland Indians / Guardians and the St. Louis Cardinals.
God,
It's not about money,
damn you.
dude. It's not about money, dude. It's about how you build your team. And as much as we hate the Dolans for not spending any money, and as much as we hate the Cardinals for not spending any smart money, those two franchises are the perfect example of why Major League Baseball needs a salary floor, not a salary cap.
Which is also why we are going to see a significant work stoppage after next season with the new
We
CBA.
are. We are. And it's sad. Because the last time we had a significant work stoppage in Major League Baseball, the inception of the internet and ESPN tonguing the ball sack of the NFL took baseball out of the number one spot in the country. This will do more damage.
So as we stand right now, your three division leaders are the Toronto Blue Jays in the East, who have clinched a playoff spot, 2 games ahead of the Yankees, 5 ahead of the Red Sox. The Red Sox will basically be eliminated from divisional contention here in the next couple of days. In the Central, the Detroit Tigers, we've established 85-71, Cleveland 84-72, 1 game back, and the all-world series that will start on Tuesday in Cleveland. In that regard, and the Kansas City Royals at 78-78, 7 games back. They will officially be eliminated probably tomorrow from the Central Division. In the West, the Seattle Mariners lead Houston by 3 games and are about to break Houston's 5-year streak of winning the West Division outright. The Texas Rangers are 79-77. 8 games back. They will officially be eliminated more than likely, possibly even tonight, because I think the Astros and the Mariners are playing right now. In the National League, the Phillies have clinched. They lead the Mets by 12 and the Marlins by 16. In the Central, the Brewers have clinched. They lead the Cubs by 7. The Reds are still mathematically alive for the playoffs, as are the Cardinals. And in the West, the Dodgers have clinched a playoff spot and are 3 games ahead of San Diego, and Arizona and San Francisco are still mathematically alive. When we turn our attention to the wild card, this is where it gets nuts. In the National League, the Cubs have already clinched the number 4 seed overall, which will be the first wild card spot, as they are 8 games ahead. Actually, I take that back. They have not officially clinched it. They have clinched the playoff spot, but they are only 3 games ahead of the Padres. And then next from there, you have the Cincinnati Reds and New York Mets, 5 games back of them, mathematically tied. But if the season were to end right now, the New York Mets are sitting home.
Yeah, Cincinnati has the tiebreak. One of the many games the Mets bullpen has blown after a starter has thrown a good start out there. And listen, I'm going to say it now, a week ahead of time. If the Mets don't get in the postseason, the fan base has no one to look at except the players. This is not a David Stearns problem. Obviously, with the money he has spent and the way he has invested, this is not a Steve Cohen problem. This is the guys not named Alonso, Soto, and Lindor not playing well. I don't know if you saw what happened last night. They come back to tie it in the 9th inning, and Cedric Mullins plays a ball into an inside the park home run.
Yeah, I did see that. Not only do the Mets have to worry about the fact that the Reds are red hot right now, the Arizona Diamondbacks are only 1 game back of them as well. So there's a possibility that in the next couple of days, if the Mets don't wake up here, it's not even so much that they need to actually worry about hanging on to the last spot. They've got to worry about jumping at least 1, if not 2 more teams to be able to get back there by next weekend.
The only thing the Mets really, first of all, they go to Chicago, who's in. And by the way, San Diego's not catching Chicago. Chicago's the 4 seed. They're not moving out of there. But they go to Chicago, they go to Miami to finish the season. They've got to win 4 out of 6.
And technically, Miami, 4 games under 500, is still mathematically alive, as are the Cardinals.
Yeah, Miami has got to. The Mets have got to win 4 or 5 out of 6 to get this thing to get in. I don't know who Cincinnati plays the next 2 series.
The Reds will actually open up a 3-game series hosting Pittsburgh starting on Tuesday.
Fuck.
And then the Reds will finish at Milwaukee for 3. And Milwaukee's really got nothing else to play for, but, they've already got a bye. So you figure Milwaukee takes 2 or 3 in their next series. They can basically coast and rest everyone for that final series because they've already got the one. They'll have the one locked up.
Yeah, but they're not going to want to do that because if you look at the teams that have had the bye going into the Dodgers are the only 1 seed to get to the World Series since they went to this, right? And even
the Reds have not only won 5 in a row, they've won 5 out of 6. They took 2 of 3 again at the Cardinals and then swept a 4-game series against the Cubs at home today.
Yeah, so the Cubs are reeling a little bit. So hopefully the Mets can take advantage of that. Because, like I said, the guys not named Soto, Alonso, and Lindor have not done anything the last few weeks. It seems to me like the only way the Mets have been in it recently is because those 3 guys get a hit somewhere to tie or give them a lead. But Jim, we had some sad news this week in the baseball world, one in the actual baseball world and one in the movie baseball world. So if we could touch on the first one, as the other night, Clayton Kershaw called it a career. In my opinion, the best lefty of the last 25 years. I think he's better than Johnson just because Randy won a lot of his games because of guys in the lineup named Griffey and A-Rod and Edgar and being 18 feet tall and throwing the ball on top of you. Clayton Kershaw, of course, we know who his catcher was in high school. Or do you not know that?
I'm not going to pay attention to that because I know it's going to be something Mets related.
No, it's Matthew Stafford.
Oh, yeah. It's just as bad.
Oh, yeah, Stafford, the guy who won you a Super Bowl. Shut up.
I mean, Kershaw 10-2 this year, walking away at 37, even though he's been off injured the last few years. First ballot Hall of Famer. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and all 18 seasons with the Dodgers, which is also massive, in my opinion, in the age of free agency, to play your entire career with one team. Over 3,000 strikeouts. Of course, he strikes out Rafael Devers the other night in the 5th inning, and Dave Roberts did the only thing you could do. He went and got him and let him have his moment, which I thought was amazing.
A career record of 222 and 96. Michael, we will never see another 300-game winner in our lifetime. Getting to 200 might actually now be the new benchmark. 2,849 innings pitched exactly, 3,045 strikeouts, 712 walks, and no saves.
Yeah,
but he does have a mythical hold from his rookie season, to his credit.
Yes, he does. And of course, you have the greatest spot start in baseball history when fans went to the ballpark thinking they were going to see Randy Johnson against Greg Maddux, and they end up seeing Clayton Kershaw and Max Scherzer.
And I mean, even more impressive than that, 13-13 in the postseason, but 194 innings pitched and 213 postseason strikeouts. He's got an entire year worth of strikeouts in just his postseason career.
And I'm going to say this. He took a lot of heat for his postseason record for a long time. Yes, he's a 500 postseason pitcher. I will say this. He is probably one of the most hard luck postseason pitchers we've ever seen. Because if you remember years ago, the Cardinals beat the Dodgers on just a horrific outfield play when Matt Holliday had gotten a hit and the outfielder played it into, I think it was a triple, but that was Kershaw. If you think about it this way, Clayton Kershaw in 10 years ago, when the Mets beat Kershaw, Greinke, and Greinke in that the 5-game series, or sorry, they beat Kershaw and Greinke in games 1 and 5. Kershaw pitched 7 innings of 1-run ball in game 1 of the LDS that year, and then he won game 4 by pitching 7 innings of 2-run ball. Greinke can't get the job done. Daniel Murphy goes on the run to end all runs. The Dodgers get eliminated. Don Mattingly loses his job. Dave Roberts gets his job. Yada yada. So we said goodbye to Clayton Kershaw, but unfortunately, the baseball movie world has lost an icon.
The greatest power hitter in the history of, probably in the history of movie cinema.
I would say greatest left-handed power hitter, because I will put Hamilton Porter up there against anyone on the right-hand side of the plate.
I mean, maybe maybe Gary Cooper in Pinstripes.
But he was hitting right-handed. They just flipped the film, so you could call it that. But we lost Roy Hobbs, as the world lost Robert Redford this week. 89, I think it was, right?
Yes.
Tim? Who had done everything from The Sting, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, of course, The Natural, to an underrated film, Sneakers. Really good. Have you ever seen that one?
That one I have not.
It's him. It's Sidney Poitier. It's River Phoenix. It's I can't remember the female that's in it, but they're basically, if you ever watch that show Leverage, that's what they were. And Redford was former CIA, what have you. Phenomenal. But probably best known for Roy Hobbs in The Natural, and maybe the most iconic.
There's a few others. Granted, you actually did bring up Sneakers. Out of Africa, we forgot about. My mother reminded me of All the President's Men.
With him and Dustin Hoffman, that was phenomenal.
The Way We Were, Great Gatsby, The Candidate, naturally Butch and Sundance. Personal favorite of mine, and vastly underrated. I thought, even though a lot of people think it's overrated, Indecent Proposal.
Great movie. That's him, Demi Moore, and Woody Harrelson, right?
Yeah.
And of course, his turn as the head of Hydra in Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
I knew you were going to bring it up because I'm going through his filmography and it popped up.
It's a great film. It was definitely a spy movie dressed as a Marvel movie. The other way around. I mean, Jim, we lost Harry Doyle and Roy Hobbs in the same year, Jim.
And Redford, 3-time nominated for Emmy Awards, 5 Golden Globe wins, and the Lifetime Achievement Award from SAG in 1995. Although
Did he get an Oscar?
Although in Indecent Proposal, he was nominated for Worst Actor by the Golden Raspberries.
He got an Oscar for something.
He did not. According to this, I take that back. He was an Oscar. He was an Academy Award winner as director for Ordinary People. He was nominated for Best Picture and Best Director for Quiz Show in '94, and
Great movie.
Was an Academy Honorary Award winner in 2001. He was nominated for the Academy Award for The Sting in '73. But in terms of primetime Emmys, he was nominated 3 times and did not win.
Sting is such a great movie.
Yeah.
So as we say goodbye to Roy, I don't know if you saw it the other night. I don't remember who hit the home run in the Met Nationals game. Might have been Soto, might have been Lindor. They did the lights, Jim.
Yeah, I did see
was
that.
pretty cool. That was pretty cool. But we're 2:29 in, dude. There's only one thing left to do.
Would you
time.
shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the YZ Translator, the moment of the night when Jim and I give each other names inside and outside of the sports world, and we get to you the first thing that pops into our heads. And as always, it is the best segment of the night because it's the last segment of the night. And it's become tradition with the Wise Guys. Jim gives us the YZ Chronicle week in and week out. And James, if you would, please, sir, the Chronicle for this evening.
We're going to bring it back to hockey. Keep in mind, it is a hockey term, but
Fucking really, dude?
which is funny considering if we were to go another direction and technically isn't that seven?
There are 7? What's that? It's a pretty important one. Oh, what's that one? It's a pretty important one. Oh, I'm looking at it upside down.
Down.
I can't even believe you did that. So, James, the first name for you in tonight's translator, going college football on this, is who I am now calling the, what do they call him? The reverse Bo Callahan. And your first name is Florida quarterback DJ Lagway.
I gave him to you last week, and just like when you gave me Billy Napier a couple of weeks ago, it's been 7 days. You know what's changed?
Nothing.
That's going to be a very easy clip because I can almost basically kind of splice together my answer for Billy Napier and put it for DJ Lagway. There is no reason he should be starting right now. And there is also no reason that Billy Napier is going to have his job by the time the Florida State game comes around.
Whilst I agree with you, do you know why I called him the anti-Bo Callahan?
Because people showed up to his birthday party and he still turns the ball over.
Wednesday night, a bunch of people went out to dinner in support of him, with him. Herb Street was talking about it all day on game day. Oh, it was so funny.
Michael, your first name in the YZ Translator tonight, I'm hoping you saw this. He's having himself a decent year on a very bad team, but he had possibly one of the best highlights of the entire baseball season today. And that would be a Washington Nationals outfielder, Jacob Young.
The fuck kind of question is that? Did I see it? The motherfucker played hacky sack and cost me another goddamn win. Son of a bitch.
I love the fact that even the Nationals' own social media feed said, "You're not playing banana ball."
Nice. Oh,
Or
on
something
that topic,
along those lines.
Did you see who pitched for the Bananas the other night?
Jamie Moyer at 904 years old.
How did he throw a scoreless inning?
You know what's funny is that they throw the Bananas out there as like a joke, and Jamie Moyer's like, "I could use that. I need the potassium right now."
Yeah, right?
Where's the oatmeal to go with it?
Thank God he'll never see that. So, James, your second and final name this evening is from the world of professional wrestling. And your second and final name in tonight's YZ Translator is the first inductee into the 2026 WWE Hall of Fame, Stephanie McMahon Helmsley. I was hoping for that.
If she is going to be the female representation of this year's class, her brother deserves to get in a hell of a lot more than she does. I understand with all the behind the scenes stuff that she's done, and especially navigating the company in the wake of her father's scandal. There's number one, no reason she should be in right now. Number two, should have been the first person announced. Number three, should have been announced nearly 6 months before WrestleMania.
Agreed. No, I'm 100% with you.
She is
Should
deserving,
change-
not yet, though.
No, I agree. Maybe this year, but not the first person announced. Did you see how it was done?
Yeah, with Mark Calloway,
With The Undertaker.
doing it.
You
Yeah.
know, Mark, yeah, and I honestly think that she was behind some of the times they bull rushed Paul in stuff backstage, which is why he just kind of gave it back.
Yeah.
Should she be in? Absolutely. I mean, I don't think the Attitude Era is the same without her, which is really what set the company apart. But at the same time, not like that.
Here's two things, the whole authority era, a lot of it was forced, her and Paul, on screen as much as they were with everything, getting involved in storylines a little too much, kind of like how we're seeing, the whole Samoan family, taking over, and thankfully they're kind of, regressing back on that a little bit. Her podcast is one of the best wrestling podcasts there is right now.
Agreed.
And we got to admit, she's right around our age. Attitude
She is
Era,
our age.
18, 19, 20-year-old Stephanie, hot.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Listen. She's got a little Stifler's mom vibe going on right now, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. If I'm gonna pull an Al Bundy here, like Ginger or Marianne, Stephanie now or Trish then? You are no.
Fuck. You've like seriously messed me up here. Because Trish Stratus back in the day.
And Trisha nearly at like 45 is still a smoke show.
Stephanie now. What do you got for me to close it out?
Mike, your final name in the YZ translator tonight. I'm going to throw you one from college football here. We actually are thinking about now, if the whole thing with the two rookies in Cleveland doesn't work out, who's going to be somebody that you can throw out there? And he had himself quite a game yesterday. And could he have maybe thrown his hat into the ring to jump himself into, improve his draft stock? And that would be USC quarterback Jaden Mayava.
He's got the right coach for it. Look what Lincoln Riley has done in the last few years. Think about it. You have a guy who right now is 3-0, running, basically keeping a franchise afloat after Tom Brady left it in Baker Mayfield. You have, I'm not going to talk about Kyler because Kyler should not have won that Heisman, in my opinion. But then you have Jalen Hurts, who, if he would have stayed at Alabama, would never play in the league. Goes to Oklahoma, becomes a Heisman finalist under Lincoln's tutelage. And now he's been in the Super Bowl twice, won one, and the Eagles are the class of the NFL. He's in the right spot. I'd have to watch more of him, and he'd have to actually play somebody yet.
I'm not ready to... Go ahead.
Pump the brakes on them drafting a quarterback.
I'm not ready to say USC's all the way back, but he's a very big part of why you actually can start thinking that they're real close.
Well, when Lincoln starts recruiting defense, we can talk.
It's
'Cause they don't
always
have-
somebody that we never, it's somebody that's not going to jump off the page that we're actually going to see make that big step. We didn't think Jaden Daniels a few years ago. We didn't actually think the kid from Florida State, you know, around, that same year. Last year, nobody was thinking, Bo Nix being that high, and then look at how he turned out.
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, it's, a lot of these guys, Cam Ward certainly was the best quarterback in the country who was draft eligible last year. I don't think that's really up for that much of a discussion. But you know, there's always going to be someone, and Mayaba's got more than an ample opportunity, to jump up and throw his names in with Raiola, the kid at Oklahoma. His name's eluding me right now. There's a kid playing
Mateer.
in North Texas right now that's actually blowing the doors off of everyone, even though he's playing with a smaller school.
Have you seen the stat about him?
I saw something. I didn't
I
pay
think
too much
it's
attention
Texas.
to it, though.
He didn't start a single game in high school. Really? Yeah, we are too early in the season.
Could
to
he be
talking
much like that? Could he be much like that Josh Allen type, to where he's at a smaller school and makes a bigger impact? Almost like a Chad Pennington, where he's playing at a mid-major. He
Due
may not
respect
be a first rounder, but he's definitely going to be somebody on a day two that you're going to steal, which we're hoping the Browns have with Dylan Gabriel right now.
Yeah. He might be. I will say this. We found out about Pennington because he was throwing the ball to Randy Moss. So as I alluded to when Jim had to pop off for a second, next week at 8:30, we will give you the Big Weekend Baseball postseason preview. God willing, I will be in a good mood.
Hopefully, both of us will be in a good mood.
Right. Alex will definitely be with us. We have some feelers out for other people to come on, but we will see where we land at that. And then, of course, the week after that is the NBA preview. So you're going to get sick of us doing these long shows.
I don't think next week's going to be nearly as long, just because we're going to be breaking down, who got in, who got out, who choked things away. Hopefully it's from my perspective, hopefully it's a certain team in New York and a certain team in Michigan that choked their seasons away.
Well, we can hope the Yankees fall on their face the next 6 games. I mean, that's just what we all want. May the ice melt in St. Louis.
They're still gorgeous. I don't care. I saw the road jersey when they played their first preseason game yesterday. It's now like, can I return this and get the road jersey? Even though I hate wearing the white jerseys, it's stunning.
It's stunning, he says. Well, we will see you guys next Sunday night, as I'm going to turn into a pumpkin any minute.
Everybody have a good one. We'll see you in a week.
See you in a week, guys.